Here we go.
Boy, no, that is a beer. Why can't they just be like, oh, this is a beer with lots of hops on live? Whoops. Morning. God, that is good. So sweet. Oh.
Why you gotta do that to me when I just...
Yo. Mass big baits. Mass big baits. You throw big baits? I don't even throw big baits that much. I mean, well, kind of. Not often though. Only at night, really. I have been getting, well, I really want to catch a glide fish this year, and so do you. You need to.
Bait?
Yeah, you.
Yeah.
What's up, Brian?
We tried.
Tried. Season ain't over.
Oh.
Me. There's 2 seasons to only big baits. You're a bold man. Our buddy Nate did that too. He just gave away a bunch of rods that we actually gave away on the channel. And he's strictly going big baits now. Which is cool, but I couldn't do it.
We won't feel this, but it'll help keep the room cool. Oh, hey. How you been? Batman's here.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's been very stressful last 3 weeks, but I'm alive. We're kicking. We got the stream back. Life's good. Guys, how y'all doing? Let us know how audio is sounding, please. Audio levels. Now that we figured out exactly how this damn device works, we'll be good. And we can get everybody good, so I'm not too loud and he's not too quiet. So please, again, if at any point I'm too loud or he's too quiet, raise your hand. Just let us know. Oh, yell at us. Tell us what's up. What do we got? We got Mass Big Baits. What's up, buddy? Brian, Chris, Ryan Outdoors. First live chat. Almost my bedtime. Oh, no, sir. You gotta stay up for a while. And Richard. Hey, David. How you doing, buddy? Sorry, everyone, that we missed last week. Work has been hectic. Really, really, really hectic. Ryan, no, we did not get to fish the quabbin yet. Actually, I gotta get in touch with Dale. We gotta plan that sooner than later. Dude, he's smashing tons of giant smallmouth over and over and over and over again. He's a hammer. He knows what he's doing. He really, 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 really knows what he's doing. We got a lot to talk about. Sir, you made me do actual work last Thursday instead of... I am so sorry. What do you think I was doing, buddy? I didn't even get home until like 7:15 last Thursday, which it usually takes me like 2 hours to like properly set this all up between just, you know, actually setting up the table and the chairs and the TV behind you can't see, and the camera and all the software, and getting mics set up and actually pulling out baits depending on what topic we're doing, the whole 9 yards. It is an involved process. It's something I can't just jump into lightly. So that's why I ended up canceling. But today worked out, which is good because I thought I was going to have to cancel again. Thankfully, I didn't. That would have really upset me. Hey, TV. All right, it's been 5 minutes as usual. We wait about 5 minutes after the start, before we get going into. First and foremost, if you could please drop a like on the video, on the stream as in general. If you haven't shared it and you're willing to, that would be greatly appreciated. But just leaving a like on it, huge, huge help. So thank you to those that do. Hey, David, thanks for joining, buddy. We got a lot to cover tonight. We're going back to the basics. The bare bones basics of bass fishing, as it were. So
Beginning of time.
the beginning. In the before time. Anybody else watch Greg the Morning Buzz in the morning?
Yes.
Be the people. Hey, buddy. we're gonna start like literally at the beginning. We're gonna start with like tools and then kind of cover the difference between lines, like when one is better than the other. Oh, is DJ. Hey buddy.
Your name's David?
Yes. This is actually, well, I don't want to like blow up his real name on here in the whole story behind his nickname, but I know it. Also,
I'll
pretty sure I know how to pronounce his last name. And I always thought it was like something else. He's like, no, it's this. I was like, DJ, please, or third. See, don't call him David.
Davy Jones.
Yes, Richard. Shakespeare Ugly Stick. Hey, Sam and Paul. Evening, everybody. So we're going to back it all the way up and hopefully answer a lot of questions. It's like, this is both a lot to unpack and not a lot because there's a lot of questions that we're going to have to answer. Like, the amount you can dive down into anything, right, can be very, very expansive. So we're going to try and cover the basics and like a half a step beyond that, because the moment you start going past that, now you're out of the basics, you're getting more into intermediate things. So we're going to try and keep this simple to the point of like, hey, I like fishing and I just started fishing from the bank, or my dad used to take me as a kid, my mom used to take me as a kid, whatever, you know, try and get that information out for those that are like, I have found a new interest or rekindled my interest in bass fishing and I don't remember anything, but I want to take it to the next level. Ryan knows what's up. Thank you, Ryan.
Oh yeah, you got the hat on. I got the shirt.
I got the shirt. You said that backwards.
No, I didn't.
Oh, I know what you mean. That's what we call self-promoting like a boss. So,
not even on purpose either.
no. All right, first and foremost, the adult beverage time. 10 Ben's beer, Northern Heights, New England style double IPA, 8%. That is the drink of choice tonight because whatever to my health. I've been so stressed and this is a great stress reliever. So, cheers, boys.
I don't even
Hey,
drink,
Talon.
I don't even drink anymore, and this is amazing.
Oh, dude, it's so good. It's so smooth. They make really good beer. All right, let's do what we typically do. Now you guys know what the plan is for the stream. As usual, let's start the recap, although this time will be a lot quicker. So let's recap what we did last weekend. What did we do? Was that?
I don't remember.
Where did... I know we went for largies. Where the heck did we go? Dude, it's been that kind of week. I don't remember where we just fished on Sunday. It was a slow day. It was somewhere...
Where did we go?
Dude.
The bridge? Place with the bridge?
Did we go back there? No.
Did we even fish this weekend?
We did. We fished on Sunday. I had to go back and check my photos. Dude,
we went out with John.
Oh, yeah. I went to the spot. Okay. I remember. Thank you. Wow.
Jeez.
John, I'm so sorry. It's not even that we forgot John. We literally forgot everything from this past weekend. So, Talon, I want to hear more about your first tournament, buddy. All right. So, past weekend report. We went to a new lake, which I was told that, yes, I can share from the person that brought us. We met up with one of my buddies, Jason. He's one of the guys on the Beast Coast fishing team. Lives in Connecticut, but he has family that lives here in New Hampshire. And you know what? I'm not going to say the name of the lake. If you follow me in Fishbrain, I posted it there. It's nothing special. That's why he said he could do it, but it may be special to somebody else. So that's why I just decided last second here not to actually share the name of the lake on the stream because I don't want to, make anybody mad.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah. But I mean, he was right, dude. He was like, you're going to go out there and smash a ton of 1 to 2 pounders. And that's going to be it. It was in southwestern New Hampshire. What would you clarify that water color as, the water clarity?
Well, you ever had a lot of Taco Bell?
Jesus, that's accurate. Dude, you could see about this deep, and then it looked like poo water.
Poo.
Yeah.
Like you were
Hey, Lisa.
literally fishing in like a sewage plant. It was pretty gross.
It was bad. You should tilt your mic up just a little bit so you're talking more into the face of it than versus over the top. So we went out there. Never been. I knew about the place. I fished lakes around this area, but I've never been to that. And it was exactly as advertised. It's got largemouth and smallmouth. Again, like anything over 2 pounds, forget it. Like it's rare. But we went there, and how many different big baits I have tied on, hoping that was going to go off?
I don't know, 8.
Yeah. And how many fish did I get on those big baits? 0. It was bad.
I don't even think I got hit on the rat. I think I gave up on the rat.
Did you even get? No, you got bumped on it, but you didn't actually catch anything on it.
Did I?
Yeah, you got bumped once. I remember that. So, long story short, new pond, really small. It's like 100 acres. Average depth is probably like 18 feet. There's one deep pocket. Went out there trying to throw big baits. Jay had already been out there Friday and smashed one spinner baits. and then smash them again in top water.
I grinded that spinnerbait and I could not get a
Conditions were like ideal for it all day Sunday.
Perfect.
Just never went off. So we tried for like the first 4 or 5 hours. I think we were there trying to make some sort of moving bait bite work, and then finally we were like, all right, screw this. And then I picked up the shaky head, and we switched our jig. So I was throwing a traditional, like, you know, Beast Coast tungsten football jig, nice big meaty skirt. But then we had the new little Magnum, that new jig that he sent us production samples for to test. Oh baby. It
nice.
Literally the moment we switched to that, and it was the exact same color, because the same company, same green pumpkin pattern, and we started catching fish just by going to more finesse presentation.
It was sick.
So we both caught a couple of fish, and then I'm like, well, I'm gonna go to the shaky head now, and then just smashed fish for the last 2 hours we were there.
Yep.
I had 20 to 25, no, 15 to 20, I would say, and then you had about 10, maybe a
I
little
was
over.
throwing the jig the whole time too, because I was looking for a bigger fish, but there's only like there may be only a handful like 4-pounders in that place.
Right. So then, go ahead.
What were you gonna say?
So just that we were fishing also with John, the owner of Wicked Custom Rods, based here out of New Hampshire, and he was a little behind.
Killed it.
And then all of a sudden he started throwing a different kind of Ned rig presentation, and all of a sudden started beating the piss out of us.
Yeah.
Like before I know it, he's got, all right, DJ, have a good night, buddy. We'll catch up.
David. David.
All of a sudden John's like, fish. And then we're like, oh, nice. And then fish. Look at him. Fish.
All right,
Slow down. I think he caught like 6 or 7 before we both like switched it up. And then that's when I busted out the shaky head. And then like, I was like, okay, it's a finesse day. I've said this before. We've said this before so many times. You like going out for this still like kind of, well, now we're kind of late in the post spawn, but we're still like in that post spawn window. Man, you got to be ready for like anything, because it flips like that for what they prefer.
You could be getting bit all morning on a jig, and then it'll just stop completely. Then you got to switch up and try and figure out what they want within 5 minutes.
Yep. You gotta be prepared. I mean, I went out with all 14 rods I own, and like he said, I had every rod tied on with big baits, trying to make that work. I had my big 7-inch Defcon, basically cranked down swim bait. It's a hard body, nothing. Throwing a big Kitech at one point. I threw a bunch of stuff, and then like just big traditional stuff just wasn't working. But as soon as we went finesse, we started smashing them.
I bet Drop Shot would have done it.
Oh yeah, well, so Jay at one point, he texted me, he goes, hey, that spot I told you about? Like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I just caught 7 fish in 7 straight casts on a drop shot. So we're like, all right, we'll be right over.
Didn't even bring my drop shot rod that day. I was like, it's not.
I didn't either. I wasn't even thinking about it. He was hitting it all weekend on moving baits. Maybe that's why we didn't, because he just beat the crap out of the place, and all the fish were like, nah.
Yeah, probably.
Not touching it. Hey, Andrew, glad you could join us, buddy.
Yeah.
So every time.
I'm here.
For a guy that hates dad jokes, you're awfully quick off the gun with that.
You know?
So that's the weekend report. I mean, water temp was low to mid 70s. Wasn't what I would consider hot. We caught a couple smallmouth, ton of largemouth. Like, I know.
Back out Monday though.
I think I caught. Oh yeah, we got to give you that too. I think I caught like at least 15. John caught probably about the same, at least 15. Andrew caught at least 10. So 40 fish between the 3 of us in a 7-hour trip, I think is how long we were out there. And then I think Jay in his boat probably caught like another 20 to 30 himself. No, maybe not that many.
I don't know. We came up onto him and he was on that hump.
Yeah, I think
and he got 15.
That one hump alone, I think he got like at least 20 fish off of between the 2 times he stopped that.
I got 1 off it.
Yep, that's right. And it was a good one too. So, all right. So then you went back out Monday.
Brought my nephew out Monday to a spot that I've been going to a little bit here and there because it's good. And
that's one way to put it.
It's my secret spot. That's
she's juicy.
Yeah. And it's got smallmouth, largemouth in it. And I wanted to get my nephew onto some largemouth. And gave him the drop shot, and he I threw a shaky head up under a dock. First cast, caught like a 2.5-pound largie. And I was like, okay, good. They're going to be hitting finesse. So I gave him the drop shot. He instantly started catching fish. Was working shaky head for about a half hour, and I really wanted to try something new, which I never really have fished before, so I switched over and I started using Carolina rig.
I'm so happy you did that finally.
I know. I love it. It's still tied on. I'm not taking it off. It's my new jig.
Now's the time, man. It's like prime time.
I ended up catching, I think I only got like 5 or 6 fish, and he got 5 or 6 fish. But they're all pretty good bites.
Yeah.
The first fish I got in the Carolina rig was a smallie.
Yep.
Which is cool. Was not expecting it. I didn't even know how the bite was gonna feel because it's got that big weight on it. I'm like, I don't know how this is gonna. And I was like, wham! I was like, oh, there it is.
Yep.
Had freaking, I don't know, maybe like a 1.75 pound smallie. Picked up a 6-inch lizard, 7-inch lizard. I don't even know it was big. One of the big ones. And because you know what I was going for.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, all in all, it was a good day. We got on a bunch of fish. They were down deeper than I was thinking they were gonna be, even though it was super hot.
That place is weird,
15.
man.
They were down in like probably 12 to 15 feet. I was thinking they'd be at least 8, but he did get a couple up shallow.
Yep.
Probably in like 3 or 4 feet of water. And you know, like right off the launch, straight across.
Yeah.
That kind of like shallow flat, but it's all rocky.
Yep.
So we saw a couple big cruisers out in there, smallies.
Nice.
But could not get him to commit. So I actually started him off throwing, because it was super windy, I started him off throwing the spy bait.
I was literally about to say, you know what probably would have worked? Either spy bait or the Okashira or weightless fluke.
Mm-hmm.
Like any of those.
Yep. I was throwing spinner bait. Nothing. I couldn't get a moving bait bite this weekend, which was tough.
There's another presentation we need to talk about offline for catching those cruisers that I think is going to work really, really well this year.
I have an idea.
It's going to be good. But yeah, so anyway, good weekend.
It was a good weekend. All in all. Oh, Saturday I went out too, and I lost my filthy glasses.
Oh, his filthy angler sunglasses.
My other filthy angler glasses.
Down the drink.
There. I went to go boat flip a fish, and I got it up, and my glasses went, yep, see ya. And they're gone.
Right off the back.
But, yep.
All in all, good weekend. No giants. Plenty of fish, though. So I'll take that. I'll take one or the other. I'll take either one big fish or just a ton of 1s and 2s. As long as I bend in the rod on something either good or a lot of, I'm happy. Joyous Fox. Any bass jig recommendations that are truly weedless? That thin grass still sticks to the weed guard frequently. If you're working in that thin grass, man, there's pretty much nothing.
Texas rig fluke.
Yeah, I wouldn't even... like, when it's that stuff, I don't even bother with the jig. I go to Texas rig stuff. Yeah, I just... Whether it be weighted or weightless.
Super green.
Yeah, it wraps around everything and it just latches onto. It's like Velcro to your brush guard.
It really is.
It's a pain. So that stuff, I almost always go Texas rig instead of a jig. Mm-hmm. It just makes life a lot easier. Sir Altitude, I think. So you said Filthy needs to make a floating pair of sunglasses. I'm pretty sure Amphibia is one of the only companies that does.
These were supposed to be the ones that float. I don't know. I haven't tested them yet.
Well, we got the tank. We can test them after. We're going to do it. I'm going to dunk them for you.
I don't know if these were the ones, though. I'm not exactly sure if these were them. Jim said they had a pair, but I don't know if these were them when I got these.
Yeah. Mint.
But, yeah, no, I highly recommend the Filthy glasses because the polarization is in between the lenses, like sandwiched, and it doesn't scratch off.
Yep. Prove it.
Prove it.
I'm going to throw them right in the tank.
If you saw my... Oh, you're talking about floating.
Oh, yeah.
If you saw my other glasses, I can still see through the water.
Tall guy. Hey, buddy. Glad you could join us. I've lost one Filthy hat, the only one I own, when we were out in that saltwater charter last year. It wasn't even that windy, and the boat wasn't even going that fast. We're going back, and Andrew, like, I'm looking backwards to the back of the boat, right? The wind's just going over the top of me, and Andrew said something. I just turned my head like this, like, huh?
See ya.
Gone. I'm like... my hair.
It went like 30 feet in the air, and then it like spiraled down. It came down and landed. It's like, gone.
Gone. About 2 miles off the shore.
If not further.
Dude, we were out there pretty far.
That's funny.
So, yeah, it happens. All right, so let's get into it. Let's start with the basics, right? If you're going out there, you need tools to make sure you can do exactly what you need. Not just gear, but what the hell do you do when you've caught a fish or if you have a malfunction with your gear? That's what we're going to start with. Absolute basics that you need to be carrying around with you every time you go out. Obviously, aside from the tackle you need to catch said fish. This, to me, is often overlooked, especially by newer anglers, and you don't realize you need it until you really need it.
Until you have a bunch of trouble staring at your fingers.
Yep. Daniel Kane, hey, buddy. Thank you. Glad you could join the stream. So, what are the absolute most basic things every angler should have when they go out fishing? Yep. Good pair of fisherman's needle nose pliers. You can get the bent tip, straight tip, doesn't matter. Anything like that where you can easily, and it like some stout stuff. Like they make the fisherman pliers, which almost look like those surgical pliers.
Don't.
Not a fan.
No.
They're too spindly. They flex a lot. If you like really need a wrench on a hook, they just kind of twist open on you. Like
Get a good pair from like your hardware store.
right. I mean,
Something you can really get a good grip and rip
Yep.
the hook out.
if you get any of the actual fishing ones, Berkeley, Rapala, I mean those are pretty much the two big ones.
Pretty much.
What was the other one? Eagle something. Laser.
This is Lake and Stream.
Yeah.
They sell these everywhere too.
Dude, you can really find them anywhere. And you could get a pair from the hardware store. Those tend to rust out more versus they have a different coating on your typical like fishing brand pliers and just the cheap ones,
Pretty
right?
much just oil.
Right. You
Really.
really just need these for hook removal. That's the big thing. A lot of people like to use these for cut and line. Works great for it too. I mean, it has that piece in the back for it. A lot of people would also try and use these for cutting hooks for when they gut hook a fish and they can't get it out. Do not recommend for these because they're not quite that stout. So, tool number 2, not many people use. I highly recommend a good pair of side cutters or wire cutters, whatever you want to call them.
Dykes.
Those are a pair of Cobalt brands. So that's like the Lowe's specific brand. I've had those for 8 years now.
No, I mean, look at them.
They're beat up. I touch them with a file once every spring just to kind of make them a little sharper. There's like, out of the whole cutting phase, there's maybe like 1/3 of the section. If you were to look at it, it's, yeah, like the 1/3 of the tip is the only spot where they actually meet. If I look in the light, like you can see,
Oh, yeah.
there's a lot where I've overused it. But the beauty of these things is not only do they work for cutting line, for a mono, not braid, but if for any reason you need to cut a hook, these are stout. They're going to cut right through it. I mean, you got to kind of mash down on it because it's a short handle. Like if you had an 8-inch long versus these 6 inches, makes life a hell of a lot easier. It's all about leverage. But I like these to always have. You never know when you need to cut a hook. You never. I like it because it's easier to cut line really quick. I can get right up against the knot depending on how I'm cutting it. I can be much more precise.
Or you could be like me and use your teeth.
Yeah, but that's not good. Don't do it. Your dentist will be very, very upset with you. Like, to me, these are 1-2. I literally do not go fishing without these. At least these, but I like to have both. On the heels of that, what a lot more people prefer versus side cutters is a good pair of scissors. These are dual purpose. I just picked these up because they have another pair of pliers, like your fisherman, and actually, sorry, they're more like this straight style, but at the tip, they have like this. It almost looks like a little hook. That's split ring pliers. So your split ring that connects your treble hooks to the bottom of your bait, that's what that little tooth is. And I don't know if I can really see it. I don't want to get too close because I throw the camera out of focus. But you use that, put it in between the rings, crank it open, and then from there you can change out hooks if you need to in a hurry. Hugely helpful. These Laser Sharp brand, they're wicked cheap. I just got them like 6 weeks ago. But they have little scissors on them too. Cuts braid and any other line like butter. Like it's barely touched it. And it cuts it super easy. I like that better than what I used to always have. Little razor blade. That's like a Harbor Freight $3 at the register special that I've had for like almost 10 years now. And I just change out the razor blade every year. And I used to love using this, and I still have it. Because it's just great to have. This is what I would use for cutting my braided line. And it's just always nice to have a knife on the boat anyway. This is cheap, replaceable. I can change out the blade versus having like a moderately decent, like pocket knife on my hand. So it's just, those are it, man. Fisherman's pliers, side cutters,
Hey, Adam.
and or optional, a good pair of scissors with a split ring on it. They also act as pliers. There's a little plier mouth in there. You really kind of can't go wrong with any of that. For your, like, absolute bare bones, don't go anywhere without this. That's number 1. Tool number 1 every time.
Yes.
Who is that? That's Adam? For Sauhegan?
I think it's Adam, yeah.
Hey, buddy. Thank you for coming into the stream. Appreciate it. Sauhegan Valley Motorsports. Great shop located in Milford, New Hampshire if you guys are looking for, just all sorts of goodies for power sports.
That's where I work.
Yeah. Yes, Joyous Fox, you're absolutely right. Carbon steel seamstress scissors are a good substitute. Can cut any line as well as hooks. I know a couple of guys that use those, and they're very, very happy with them. They work great.
After the pliers,
Yeah,
I mean,
I
I mainly cut my line with my teeth because I'm a moron, and I'll literally just buy 20-pound floral. Not like it's nothing. For some reason, I don't know why my teeth adapted to it or what, but it's seriously easier for me. My biggest tool, my next biggest tool that I want to cover is a pick. 90 degree, or you got the little U-shaped one.
The Captain Hook, I affectionately call it.
Is it?
That's what I call it.
Oh, okay.
And then you got this little guy. As long as it has some sort of hook to it, whatever kind of bend.
It's to get your backlashes out of your bait casters, or any knot. When it backlashes, it usually loops around the line, and you can really get in there with these instead of trying to pick at it with your fingers and you can't get in there. You just go in with this and you just pull it out, and you just it usually comes right out.
Yep.
Within a couple tries.
Right. And you're not like you're not trying to use, whatever fingernails you have to try and get in to get that. Maybe you pull a little too tight and you put like a real hard, like basically hairpin bend in one of those lines.
Yeah.
You can't get that with your fingers, and you don't want to use your pliers because you're going to fray it and you're going to have to pull that out to cut it. But if you carefully go in with a relatively blunted tip, but yet still pointy tip, little pick, so you're not going to gouge the line. And even with the still slightly sharp tip, like I pulled out braid on this all the time, and sometimes it'll go in between the strands and the braid.
Yeah.
It doesn't break off.
Yeah, no,
it still is great. You're just kind of separating them, but you're not breaking it. You're not putting any sort of abrasion into it. So a pick would be, if I had to only pick 2 tools that I'm going to have, that's what I'm walking around with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
going to pick. That's literally it.
I'll save you everything.
Yeah. No, we will.
Now we're kind of getting to the optional things, but especially for newer anglers, and I'm specifically looking at you wacky rigged fishermen. There's a tool that I started using 3 years ago. I bought that. No, that guy.
This thing. Oh.
Wacky
rig or drop shot.
Or drop shot. I mean, literally anything when you're fishing finesse, especially deep. Hook remover tool. That's a Walmart special. You can get them on Amazon. They're stupid cheap. How many fish have I not gotten a hook out with that?
None.
Exactly. I'm literally batting 1,000 with that hook remover tool. There is not a single fish that I have not been able to pull the hook out ever since I bought that tool. No matter how badly it's got hooked. If I can see the hook, that gets it out.
Yep. It grabs it. So if you really got hooked a fish, well, you gotta.
Oh, dude, use. that's good visual. 12-watt beast hook.
If you really got here, let me choke this thing down.
Okay.
If you really gut hook a fish and it's in there, and you put that, it's got a little thing on there, and there's a little, what do you call it?
There's like a plunger inside, but there's like a hook, and then there's a couple of recessed like half moon cuts on the like perpendicular to the hook that protrudes out.
That's in the fish's mouth. You get that little hook around that.
Want me to do it, or you got it?
But it'll literally turn, even though it looks like it's falling, it's not.
Well, yeah, it's falling, but yeah, you would grab it like up here, and it basically it takes it and it rolls the hook over.
It literally just
turns
the hook over.
In almost every single instance when a fish is gut hooked, it's not always stuck. A lot of the time, it's just swallowed down past basically the O-ring in their throat. So you just have to turn the barb around and pull it past. Or the hook point, I should say, not the barb. So that's the benefit of that hook remover tool. You're just basically rolling the hook over 180 degrees and you pop it out. Sometimes, yeah, the hook is still in there, but again, instead of trying to pull the hook point up through the fish continuously, you're rolling it over, so you're popping it out, and it just slides out from there. Literally batting 1,000. Haven't had a single fish that I've had to cut a hook off and leave it behind ever since I bought these.
So a lot of times when I gut hook them, before we started using this,
Andrew, help!
Yeah, I would go in through the gills, and I would grab the line and pull it through the gills, which would turn the hook upside down when you pull it, and then you can go in and grab it and pull the hook out with your fingers or with pliers.
Which works great on anything like 1.5 pounds and up,
and
but once you get those smaller fish, it's a nightmare, especially for larger-handed individuals.
You're just going to destroy them. You're going to kill them.
Let me back up for 1 second. John Mango, I don't know if I said hi or not yet, but hello. Thank you for joining. Joyce Fox asked, do you usually use leaders or just straight braid? We're going to get to that, but to answer your question, both. It depends on the technique. Richard, hobby shops have those hooked picks that are actually dense plastic, great for picking lashes without scraping line or reels. Did not know that. That's actually an excellent idea. Statue
I've
Panda,
never-
thanks for joining.
Never broken line using a metal pick though.
No, but I can see where
I
it'd be
can
beneficial
definitely
for
see, yeah.
an inexperienced angler their first
Definitely.
time, just kind of like hacking and bashing away at it.
Yeah.
Before we go to the next tool, I am gonna like absolutely back up for like every section of all the stuff that we're covering and just like, okay, real quick. Yep, we said number one, this, you can find it here, and so on and so forth. So other tools, I mean, we kind of covered everything except for that blue and green thing right in front of you, which honestly, and I'm going to be kind of a dink about this,
Optional.
way too many of you, not you in here in the stream, I'm speaking in general about those like on Facebook, really need to have one of these. Yep, I went there.
Yeah.
We've all seen it, like, and I get it. Like, if you're not an experienced angler, you just don't know. It's hard to guesstimate off of limited experience. So I'm not really trying to be a dick. But if you guys really want to know what your fish like weighs, you can't really rely on the measurement method, right? For length and girth, I mean, length alone, not even close. And I can prove that. Over the last 2 years, I caught 3 fish exactly on the line 22 inches long, which is just wild that I've caught 3 fish literally on the line. Like, pinch the tail and fold it and just kiss that white line for 22 inches. 3.5, 5.5, and 7 pounds 5 ounces, my PB last year. All of them exactly 22 inches.
Yeah.
That 3.5 was paper thin. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, lots of 14-inch 4-pounders on these. You're right. I got a 6.36 at 20.5 inches.
Oh, I knew that thing was fat, but I didn't realize it was that short.
Yeah, it was super short.
That's insane. Well, it's funny because there was somebody on Facebook last week or the week before that posted, and they had a huge fish. And he was like, I didn't bring a scale. Or I think he was the guy that had 3 scales, all of them dead.
Oh,
I felt bad. Dude, he was a big fish. Like, there was, like, he got a good picture of it. The perspective was good. Like, size of fish relative to his hands. Like, everything was good that you got a good sense of scale for this fish. And it was a tank. There was absolutely no question. He's like, help me out. I just know it was 22 inches long. And Mike Sell Video beat me to the punch because anybody that's on Facebook in the New England area that knows Mike Sell Video,
pounds.
that dude's a hammer. He catches giants. And he posts up 4 or 5 pictures of all like 21 to 23 inch bass. And he's like, they're all over the place, but in general, like 6 pounds is a pretty safe bet. And I wholeheartedly concur with that. Especially if it's fatty. And dude, this thing was fat. Not like just ate a 2-pounder fat. It was like a legitimate 6+ pounder. Just tank.
That sucks. You didn't have scale.
Yeah, I feel bad for the guy. But so like, that's it. So to recap, tools. Number 1, fisherman's pliers, some kind. I honestly kind of like these better, where they got that slightly hooked tip. It's nice when you need to kind of get in and finagle around. In
I
really
like those
small
better
fishes.
with bigger fish.
In really small fish too, because you can kind of come down the side and you're not like blocking the view
you're
of
right,
what you're
you're
doing,
right.
and then you kind of come in and you can manipulate it around a little bit. Number 2, I would actually say, is either side cutters or scissors / split ring pliers. I would prefer the side cutters. It doesn't help cutting braid. If you have a knife, that gets you around it.
Ooh, or
But-
a lighter. You can use a lighter or a torch too for braid.
There you go. For you smokers, bad people. I'm kidding. But if you ever need to cut a hook, and so, I mean, literally anywhere, any hardware store, Walmart,
Literally anywhere.
literally anywhere. Your local hardware store that sells fishing tackle will have
Discount,
a Rapala
something
or
store.
Berkeley or something,
Anywhere.
like actual fisherman's pliers. Same deal. I got these, they're Cobalt brand from Lowe's. I think they were like $16, you know, like those go great. Fish hook remover I got from Walmart a couple years ago. I think it was $8. You can get them on Amazon, a 2-pack for $9 because I told them my high school anglers to get one. So that's 1, 2, and 3, especially for you novice anglers. I cannot stress how important this will be for you to save fish. Optionals. Oh no, sorry. And last but not least, a pick. Especially if you're learning how to use baitcaster. Or in our case, we're very experienced. We still need it.
Yeah. If you buy a baitcaster, buy a pick.
That's
yeah.
the next best tool you can get.
Yeah, because you're gonna backlash.
Oh yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're gonna do it.
Yeah.
A lot.
Again, optionals, split ring pliers with scissors on them, or scissors in general, scale. I like, again, these cheap little flip open razor blade knives. So you can replace the razor blades. Like the blade itself is probably, or the knife itself is probably what, like $3-4, Harbor Freight, anything like that. Like literally a cash registered, like last minute line item thing. And then a pack of razor blades, what, $6?
Yeah.
If that, you get like a 3-pack again at the front of the register for like $1. So that, I mean, that's it. Those are all the tools that I would highly recommend for your basics. We spent a lot of time on that. I didn't mean to. Sorry, but we're thorough. What do we got here? Let's see. Talent. I got some 16-inch 2-pounders a few weeks ago, but I have picks to prove it. There you go. Henry, getting the hook out through the gill. Be extra careful. Damaging the gills. The fish can bleed to death, especially for beginner. Absolutely true, Henry.
Be extremely careful around the gills. It's where they breathe.
Right.
A lot of blood flowing through those.
Yep.
That's why they're red.
And that's why I highly recommend you get that fish hook remover. And again, it's kind of weird the first time you use it. Most of the time you have to pull the bait out, so you got to use your needle nose, grab the bait, rip it out, so you can clearly see the hook. But you grab the hook shank up kind of high and just squeeze it. And it's just gonna roll the whole thing over and just, I mean, you literally hear it just kind of pop out. It's pretty cool. So that's that. That's the basics you should go for. I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. I was gonna say it's cover hooks and stuff. What the hell are you gonna put all this in? This is an easy one. Tackle boxes. That's about as basic as it gets, friends. That's a Walmart special. That was mine originally from like 12 or 13 years ago. I gave it to my kid. He's got all his random tackle in there. It's just a hard plastic tackle box. It's great. It's got
all this stuff. Hey, look, there's pliers in there. Look at that.
See? Even my 8-year-old kid knows what to have in his tackle box. But that's great because it's got like the top shelf for kind of all your like your day use, like that day. You can stick your tools up there and stuff, your fishing license in a sandwich bag, keep it dry, easy to find. And then underneath, it's got like all sorts of extra dividers and stuff. Those are great, and they're especially great for very beginners where you want something robust. You kind of toss around and smash it. For those a little bit more budget in mind, may I present to you the Fisherman's Backpack, courtesy of Ego Fishing. This thing is the tits. It really is.
Yeah, I want to get one.
It's got, what I really like about it are these buckles on the front. They're aluminum, and they don't actually buckle. They slide through the loops, but they're robust. Like, it's actually pretty good aluminum. I want to say it's 1/8 inch thick, judging by a quick little review. It's got a deep pocket on the top, which is where I typically tend to throw all my soft plastics. Like, there's well, actually, I just emptied it. Maybe. Do I still have stuff in there? No.
It's a ludicrous song.
There's another little pocket. I mean, you can see it's like a thin flap, but up here is where I can fit like my fishing license, my pliers and stuff. On these side pockets, there's just enough room for like my scale on one side, some other tools on the other. Same pocket down here. And then what I really like about it, and I have used this, by the way, I didn't just like get it and not use it. It's got 4 actual divider boxes at the bottom. This is a little bit more expensive. There's even more room down here. There's another zippered pocket at the bottom. I think this is $130, and that's kind of the average price for a lot of these backpacks.
There's stuff in there?
Yeah, there's some weights and hooks and stuff.
Oh, cool.
From the last trip out when we went to the river.
Oh, yeah.
After Browning Factory.
Yep.
Ridiculously comfy. Very easy to carry around. Like I just said to him, we took it when we went on a little river fishing trip. We were beating the bank. Wicked handy to have because I could just keep it on my backpack, on my bag. Yeah, my back. There we go. English. And it was comfortable the whole time. And I threw a ton of stuff in there. When I go fishing, sometimes I've used it now 3 times fishing with other people. My buddy DJ one time, I think. Yeah, I think I had it in DJ's boat. He was here earlier in the stream, David. TJ Smallmouth Freaks, I had it out with him. And then another guy, Alan, one of my subscribers. I took him out fishing, do a little video game tutorial so we could do some deep water finesse fishing. And we had a good day that day too. He killed it. He really killed it. That dude knows what he's doing. You just need a little, I guess, confidence, right? To fish with somebody else. So, like, just need something good to carry around with. Those are great. Thank you, Gene. You're very welcome. Yeah, yeah, you know, the backpack, like, those plastic tackle boxes are great, but if I had a choice, that backpack is, like, 10 times nicer.
Yeah, because if you're beating the bank, you don't want to be putting down a box and
have it roll
casting
over
out,
on you.
rollovers, shit falls out of it, and then you got to pick it all back up. Then you get home, there's grass in it, and there's shit everywhere. You got the backpack, you got it on, you're casting as you're walking, you're casting. You need something, just take it off. You know,
right.
Just have to keep picking this thing up and walking around with it. And if you're in a hurry, if you're like if you're going somewhere and you see a big bass, you're not just gonna like want to like put this thing down, put this box down. You're just gonna already have your rod ready, flip in, catch the fish. If you hopefully,
Yeah.
it's just easier to have in the bag.
All right, let's move on and talk about hooks because that's the other most important thing. And then we're going to do... Smush it. Bugs. That time of the year, boys. All the insects. So hooks. Weights are pretty straightforward to me. A bullet weight is a bullet weight. You know, like you got different sizes and different materials. I personally prefer just straight like flipping and pitching style weights versus a traditional worm like bullet weight. Because you can still, like a worm / bullet weight looks literally like a bullet, but on the underside that touches your worm, it's concave. It's like a curved surface. It's great for worms, but only that. Versus just a flipping and pitching weight is kind of flat on the bottom, but it still has like that bullet profile. Still works great in Texas rigs. It's just like a one and done. It does everything. But hooks, that's where things get really interesting.
There is a lot of them. This is just a couple of them.
Right. So let's start with probably the most basic one.
Yep.
That everybody's going to use at some point.
The Gamakatsu
Extra wide gap hook.
EWG. Was that a 4-aught?
3-aught. I think that's a 3-aught, actually. I think I had my fluke on that.
But this is pretty much, when you start Texas rigging stuff, this is what you're going to use.
Yep. Demonstrate, please. So the beauty of this with that extra wide gap is not only does it make it easier, especially that bend at the top, not only does it make it easier to go ahead and rig it up, but when a fish bites, it's got that whole extra gap for the bait to collapse against to. So you get just a much better hook set. They have traditional worm hooks, which look like this, but they don't have that huge gap between the rest of the hook shank and the tip of the hook. Extra wide gap, pretty self-explanatory. I much prefer these to a traditional hook because I feel like my hookup ratio is better. Plus, these are more universal. Like, it doesn't matter what size worm you throw in this. It could be something super finesse. It could be something super thick like a swim bait. It's going to work for everything.
Yeah, really, it does. So Texas, like regular Texas rig, how to rig it. You take your extra wide gap hook. If you're using a worm or anything, really, you put a craw on there. You can put, I don't know, we don't have anything really else. I mean, you could do technically you could put this on there if you really wanted to, but
yep. I mean, it's no different than an actual swim bait hook.
Yeah, really.
Well, but that's got a little screw head, but we'll get to that.
So usually how I do it, I come down, see the point, how this is straight, and then it comes to a straight 90 degrees. Come down to that, and I poke it through. I think I poke it through the bottom, right?
Yeah, and typically you want to go through the bottom.
And then, you want to poke the tip through the bottom of the bait. This one is flat, so it's easy to tell. Normal Senko is circle, so it doesn't really matter. Bring that up, and you want to feed it. It's kind of hard to do this. Anyway,
you can do it. Just don't spill your beer.
I'm going to feed this all the way up to where it's past that 90 and going up the hook. Obviously, you're already tied on. You got your eyelet there.
Yep. Then you hide the line.
And you want to hide, you can hide, which also hides the knot, which makes it even more weedless.
Right. You don't have to, but I prefer to because it's just that little bit of extra added security against your knot. Plus, it just makes for a more, I guess, cleaner presentation.
Right. What I like to do is when I try to figure out, because sometimes you put it on and it looks like this.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Or it's like super stretched out and you can't hide the tip after you go through. But I come down to right where that bend meets the bait, and that's where you want to go through it. You come straight through.
You might have to roll that over. There you go.
I'm gonna come, so it's gonna come right about there. Come up, go straight through, and now it's pretty straight. And now you just want to pull forward on a little bit.
Just bury the tip.
Just bury the tip in there.
Which that is technically called Texposed. A true Texas rig, you wouldn't actually put the hook point the whole way through the bait, right? So if you backed it up before you buried it, you would just go, it's going to be kind of hard to show from back there, but you would just put the whole hook in the body and leave it in there. And that's a true Texas rig. But I prefer to go Texposed, which is exactly how Andrew did it. Where you go all the way through and then just rebury the tip a little bit. Because for me,
just the tip.
Depending on how they bite it, sometimes they don't quite get a good hold of it. And the Texpose is a no-brainer. It's always going to bust free from the bait, and you're going to get a good hook set. The only downside is you rip through baits a lot faster when you do that.
You do. But I feel like my hookup ratio is better.
With the Texpose.
With the Texposed than the normal Texas rig. Because you're going through, with the normal Texas rig, you're going through fresh bait. and you can see it's gotta get around that tip. Once it's exposed, it's just barely in there. As soon as it touches it,
It exposes the tip.
There's the tip of the hook.
So it's a bit more consistent and reliable way to do it, but yeah, you will absolutely go through baits more quickly. John, yes, we're absolutely going to get to that. You guys ever use the straight shank hook for flipping, pitching, punching? Oh, wait a minute.
You mean this?
You mean this guy?
I prefer that now.
Yeah. So
that we've been using it. 100% prefer that.
This is, I wouldn't really say a beginner style hook. So that big ugly thing on the back is basically a bait keeper. This is a straight shank hook, but it's a flipping and pitching hook. The whole purpose of this is going heavy cover, like constant use, just violent use, right? Like I am taking this and I'm throwing my bait into the thickest crap I can find fast. Like I am literally pitch, lift it, pitch. I mean, I'm making probably 10 casts a minute. I mean, the moment it hits the bottom, I lift, reel it up, do it again.
With up to a 1 ounce weight.
Right. Heavy duty stuff.
Ounce and a half. Sometimes.
Same deal though. You just go in through the back a little bit. And so something like this, like a striking rage craw, which you can find pretty much anywhere, there's like ribs on the body, right? And I go just past the first rib.
What's up, Jamie?
Because that's perfect where you slide it up just past that bait keeper. It's perfect. So that might be hard to see, and I really hope I don't
showing
throw
soft plastics and we don't even have any Semetis space to show.
I have Semetis in the boat.
Yeah, mine are in my boat too.
Sorry, Jamie, but hey, that you can join us, buddy. So I'm going just up past that bait keeper, and then from there, this one I'm truly Texas rigging, but I'm getting the hook point just underneath the surface behind that. But even though it's a straight shank hook, that bait's pretty damn straight. And they don't have a problem. Like when you're using something big like that big hook, you're usually going big line, big rod, something stout. You are setting the damn hook.
I mean, my punching set rod.
7.6 heavy fast?
It's like, no, that orange. I got a carrot. It's like a 10 ounce. It's rated to like 10 ounces.
You ever heard the term broomstick when people talk about like stout rods? Yeah. That's about as stout as you can get.
Yeah, it's pretty much a broomstick. Like, it does not... I caught that 34-inch striper.
17 pounds.
17, yeah.
It was over 17. 17 plus.
Whatever, 17-something pounds. Yeah. 34 inches. That rod didn't really bend that much.
No, dude, when you set the hook, the rod bent a little bit. And that's all I had to say. I'm not even joking. Like, you go back and watch our striper video from back in January. He set the hook, and it bent. And then at one point, it pulled line, and it bowed even more. I'm like... Oh, that's a legitimate fish.
It works.
Broomstick or bust. Dude, I've been getting more into that. I have to thank DJ for that too, Jamie. 3D_fishing on Instagram, because he took me to Champlain to punch grass mats last year. First time I've ever like legitimately punched, and I bought a broomstick this year. I'm now almost never going to use it this year, but I'm ready for when I go back to Champlain. I
want to go.
I'm starting to get tight pants here just talking about it again. It was so much fun. Hey, remember when you were supposed to go and you were asleep?
I was asleep.
Where's the wound? Here's the salt. Sorry. That was the day you were supposed to come and you slept in until
I was
like 11.
Also supposed to go for a week.
Oh, yeah. I remember you calling me like, I'm sorry, I just woke up. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm already halfway through Vermont. I couldn't wait.
I knew you were already gone. I was like, what?
Yeah,
I
don't think
saw the clock, and I'm like, fuck.
It's like already 120 miles from town. So those are two hooks, right? You got your absolute most basic. It is your extra wide gap hook, which you can do a ton of things. You know, that's like perfect for Texas rigging. So you would actually have a little bullet weight on the front, right? So bullet weight, then tie your hook, and the bullet weight slips. And you can throw that with either just a craw, you can throw it with a ribbon tail worm, you could do it with a fluke or a Senko, depending on what you want to do. So Texas rig, extra wide gap hook, works awesome. For if you want to get something a little bit more heavy duty and you want your bait to last a little bit longer, that's when you get into something like this, a flipping pitching hook that actually has a bait keeper on the back. And it does, it makes a huge difference to how much longer your baits will last on that. So huge.
Yeah, they do last a while on those.
They do. So Next up would be like weighted hooks, right? When we're talking jigs, or Ned rigs. There's a couple different kinds, right? Like Ned rig is pretty straightforward. It's just a mushroom head. Sometimes I don't know if they actually call it button head. Like that's to me, that's the new. What'd you say?
It sounds racist.
Yeah, it does. So this is a new Beast Coast tungsten one, and that's like a rounded head. It works great. And it's super light duty. It's got a bait keeper on the back. It's tungsten. So, I mean, the idea of that is it's supposed to stand straight up and down like that, which if we got the bait tank in here, we can start tanking, but we'll do it later. Okay. Because we're going to talk about baits and techniques too. And then, but that's like very, very straightforward for Ned rig. They all do the same thing. They kind of look the same. It is what it is. The two most common jigs, you can pick those up if you want, buddy, and show them off. We got your football head. Everybody talks about a football head jig because it literally looks like a football on its side. And then you have a ball head, which it looks like a ball. It's just nice and round.
Drink. That's a
everybody drink.
Sharp ass hook. Holy, is that Kitech?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, God. Kitech?
Kitech, I don't care what you
Kitech.
call it. It's a ball.
So, what is the difference between the two? When do you throw one over the other? Really simple. If you're fishing a ton of rocks, a ball head, a rounded head is better because it's going to climb through a little bit better and is far less likely to get hung up because it's still technically a slimmer design, and plus it's rounded. There's no points to it per se that would allow it. Like there's no wedging points on it. It is a freaking sphere.
Right.
So it's best for rolling around. Lisa, that is 10 Ben's Beard Northern Heights double IPA. And it is delicious. I might go get a second. We'll see.
They will get stuck. They will get wedged in between rocks. Like this is a rock. They do get wedged, like down in there.
Yep.
But usually I'll get back over it. You can pop it free.
Yep. It does roll. But yeah, if you get down into a pinch point, there's nothing you can do. Doesn't matter what style head you're going to do. It's going to get buried in there. Football jig is great because the idea behind that is it's always standing up. Especially on a heavier head. On a 3/8 ounce or less, it doesn't really. It depends on what bait you're throwing on the back of it. For me, my experience, a 3/8 ounce tends to want to roll over on its side. It doesn't really like to stand. But when you drag it, then it kind of does what it's supposed to do, right? It gets up on the head and it stays there. But if you want it to actually land and stay standing, 1/2 ounce or heavier, it's much more reliable. And obviously, the heavier you go, the more likely it is to hit and stand. But that's great for a dragging presentation. Maybe not great if you're around a ton of rock. You're going to get hung up. But working like good sand flats or around like sand with that rip-rappy rock.
Bigger boulders.
Yeah, big boulders. That'll climb up and over.
Literally all I use for big boulders is football heads.
Yep.
I will use these, but I usually never do. But that's...
It depends on what I'm doing.
Right.
If I know, like... We'll get areas where there's some sand in the middle of big rock piles, but for the most part, it's just a ton of rock. And then you get like a mix of the whole range of rock sizes, right? Anything from like little softball size to, 5-6 foot boulders.
And then sometimes the size of houses.
Right. That's where I like a ball head because I don't know exactly what size rock I'm going to be coming through at some point. Whereas if I know I'm fishing isolated big boulders, a football jig's fine. But if I'm fishing in the middle of a rock field, I like the ball head because I'm less likely to get stuck, but you're fishing rocks, you're going to get stuck. It's going to happen. And then you got, things like finesse hooks. Like this is a little bit bigger, but that's if I can do it, that's like a 2-aught finesse hook. Yeah, drop shot hook. That is actually honestly really great for you guys to throw wacky rig Senkos. Works killer.
Have a good night, TV.
Have a good night, TV. Things like that. And then you've got something like a shaky head. So kind of stout hook, light head, long hook shank, but it's got a little screw feature on it. So the whole purpose of that is you're not sticking the worm on a bait keeper feature like you have, say, actually that's a better representation. On the football jig, it's got that molded bait keeper in there. But it's the problem with that is like if you're fishing a bigger bait, it's okay because you have a lot of meat in that bait to hold on to. But what if you want to fish something super finesse, like a shaky worm, or this is a zoom finesse worm? It's really small. That's where something like a shaky head style comes in handy because it's got that little screw on the front that you literally screw into the bait.
Bite or cut about an eighth of an inch off the front of your worm, though.
Yeah.
Which will create a flat surface and it makes it a lot
Way
easier
easier
to screw the worm on.
So, Jeez Louise. So the benefit of that is not only is it a lot better hold on it, but it's also flexible. So
Use your hand as a backdrop for the bait. Okay.
sorry, thank you.
Yes.
So you get the kind of that added flexibility with it. Man, that's hard.
Just do this.
You know, where you got that flexibility with it, but it screws in really nicely. You can get it right up in there and hold it up. We're gonna have to get like a little cardboard, little window here. The bait feature.
Yeah, right.
They can make something super fan. Dude, we should do it like those like old middle school pictures, like put in those crazy like laser backgrounds. That'd be so sick.
Oh,
We need a button for like sound effects for every time we put a bait up in front of it. Oh, that'd be great. But so like shaky head is good for if you want to throw, like finesse worms. Stout hook, you can kind of lay into with that. It's great. That's kind of it. There's so many different hooks that you can do, but that's like the gist of it. You've got your very traditional ones.
It's like man.
I don't know if that's a compliment or not.
It's not. It's calling you retarded.
Chad said, "Hey, we can hear Andrew tonight. Good adjustment." Thanks, Chad.
Is that Chad you work with?
Yeah. Sorry, I bumped you. So, that's it, right? You got your extra wide gap hook. That's what happened to Andrew bowling injury.
Yes, bowling with skateboards.
You got your football head, which is good for just dragging in general or big structure, big boulders. You got your ball head, which is kind of your do-all, any kind of structure. You've got Ned head, pretty self-explanatory. Ned rig baits. Shaky head, great for finesse worms. If you want something that's bottom contact, that you can also basically Texas rig or Texpose. So you can fish around hardcover or vegetation, and you're not going to get the hook point wrapped up in things, but you don't need the brush guard. So it's kind of best of both worlds. Finesse hooks, those are pretty self-explanatory if you're getting into things like drop shotting, or it's basically like a circle hook or like an octopus hook, whatever the hell they call them, where you want to use that for wacky rig Senkos or wacky rig stickworms. So that's that. On the topic of wacky rig Senkos, this is a hugely helpful tool. It's an O-ring tool.
This is Jerry's favorite tool.
Yeah, Jerry T from Massachusetts. He is the Senko master. We call him Senko Slayer, Jerry. Jerry the Senko Slayer. What do we call him?
Suck at Senkos. Jerry sucks at Senkos.
Jerry's gonna drill a hole in my boat if he ever hears this.
We have a bet. What was it?
$1,000 for every Senko you find in his boat. I think maybe it was $100, but
yeah.
It was a large number. We're gonna dump a bag of Senkos in his boat one day.
Do you have any Senkos out?
Yes, I do. So I'm actually glad you said. Oh, I like these colors. I'm almost out. I want to make sure I save that.
I don't think I've ever used it.
Oh,
dude, no, I have.
Super clear water is killer.
100% have.
Gene, size of the hook is determined by the size of your soft plastic. Yes, absolutely. Depending on what you're doing. It depends on the technique, right? And definitely the size of the plastic you're doing. In general, like a 3/0, so that's 3/0, you would pronounce, it's supposed to be, as far as I know, you're supposed to say 3/0 or 2/0, 4/0, so on and so forth. A 3/0 is about as universal a size as I can find.
Probably, yeah.
A 2 is pretty good, a 2/0, but like a 2/0 for a 3.5 inch to 4 inch craw, pretty good, but I feel like pretty undersized. 3/0 is perfect. 4, a little too big. Now, if you get into something like where you're Texas rigging a 6-inch Senko, a 5-inch Senko, a 3/0's fine. 6-inch, maybe you want a 4-inch. One of the other things that we've talked about a lot too is position of that hook and size and everything. Because sometimes, even though the fish is hitting it aggressively, they're like side swiping it, right? So we've had days where I've been dragging an 8-inch ribbon-tailed worm on a Texas rig, and I've been missing fish, but they're trucking it. Like whole rod tip bends down.
Mm-hmm.
And miss fish after fish after fish. Because as it's coming and swimming through, pretend that's 8 inches, they're grabbing it in the back half. and they're basically T-boning from the side. So they're nowhere near that hook, and I'm missing it constantly. You can adjust that by either going to a bigger hook, so the hook shank is down closer to the tail end of the bait, or you could rig the bait a little bit higher so the hook is actually like in the middle of it, which sucks because you're going to go through baits way faster because now you have a lot of that bait where there's just line in it.
Yeah.
And as soon as you head the hook, it's like a knife. It just cuts right through it.
Like you're going to run.
Yeah, there you go. That would be perfect.
This, like pretty much almost halfway down, and the rest of this is going to be line through your bait. So you're going to start off by feeding almost half of your bait around this hook before you come out. I can't even really show you, but I think you understand what I'm saying.
Yep. Who said it? No, Joyous Fox. It's not a Goby Senko. It's baby bass. Great for clear water. It's like a lighter, almost translucent, like watermelon green with a black and gold flake. Love it for super gin clear water. Talon. So is it just me, but I really just have never had luck with wacky rig? Where do you prefer to throw your wacky rig?
Me?
Yep.
Usually steep banks, if I'm using weighted wacky rig, or next to grass hunks.
You just hit the nail on the head for me. That's my favorite thing to throw. It's one of those that you can kind of make it work pretty much anywhere. I've heard some things. Actually, Chad, that we were just talking about on the phone, my coworker told me about a guy local doing something that like he saw it, and when he told me, I had the same reaction. Just like literally sit there, scratch your head, like, why the hell are you doing that? It works. It ain't stupid if it works.
What?
Anything in general.
That's why I do a lot of things.
Right. If it works, it doesn't matter. So
I do a lot of weird shit when I'm fishing.
Yep. But
It
I
works, usually.
We've got a few spots where we've got like really, really good, clearly defined weed line edges or like grass vegetation, lily pads, any of that, and throw it right on the front face. I mean, basically kissing the outermost edge and just letting it fall all the way down in front of like that 10 to 12 foot wall of
When
weeds.
they're wacky rig, this thing will do this on the way down.
Yep.
Blah, 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 blah.
It's awesome. John, how do you know when fish is hitting it from the side? Just rod feel? Yes, and if you're constantly missing fish.
Yeah.
We've had plenty of days like that where, I mean, it feels like they're trucking it. Like, whole rod jumps, they're knocking slack in the line, the whole 9 yards.
Like, wham!
Yep.
You can feel them smash it, and you come and you miss them almost every time. They usually hit it from the side.
Yep. And if your weight or your worm is pulled all the way down to the bottom of your hook, you know, that's generally like kibbies or, you know, really small fish in general. But
Instead
if
of
you
hitting it directly dead on, they'll be hitting it out here or out here. And
Right.
You're just not getting a good hook set on them.
Yep. And because if they're hitting it that aggressively from behind, they're going to choke the thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's where they're going to be able to hit it that hard from coming up from behind it or hitting it at the head and not get the hook point. But if they're T-boning it from the side and they're only getting the back end of it, they can still knock a ton of slack into it. They're hitting it at full speed and just not get the hook shank.
A 1 pound bass will inhale this thing. 100%. This entire thing will go right down his throat. Completely. They can do that with this, too.
So, Joyous Fox said, I just can't find a lot of scenarios where wacky rig gets bites that using another creature bait wouldn't work. If I know bass are kind of cruising around structure, or if they're holding up underneath things, and they want something big, a la a 6 or even 7-inch Senko, but they're not really willing to chase it, if they see it, and they're going to come after because they want it, but if it's moving beyond a certain rate of speed, they're just not going to commit to it, and they're just going to turn around and be like, ah, no, never mind, it's going too fast. Looks good, but I'm not going to commit. That's where wacky rig Senko to me comes into play. And we've seen that how many times where they're active, we're throwing like even light Texas rigs at them, and they kind of turn and look at it and they're like, nah, it's already gone.
Yeah.
And they turn around. But as soon as you throw something bulky like that, that's got a really slow rate of fall, that's the difference.
That's why sometimes using a lighter, bigger profile jig works, because it falls slower.
Yep. Changing your trailer helps slow the fall rate too. That can also be huge.
Throwing a bigger trailer on there with a lot of action will slow it down.
Yep.
It'll get them to come up from the depths.
Is good.
So wacky rig Senko.
Pretty much it. Oh yeah. We didn't even show that.
If you're gonna use wacky rig Senko,
O-ring tool.
O-ring tool. This tool, you take your wacky rig, your Senko. Come on.
Teamwork.
And it goes in there. And you have a bunch of O-rings at the end on a screw. You can
Take the screw entirely
You can
off.
you can take the screw entirely off, or you can set it to how many you have. It doesn't really matter. It's just to hold the O-rings on there. But
Yeah, that's how I usually do. I roll. You want me to do it? Or your wrist? You got it.
you just push the O-ring, the next O-ring, down to the end, and then you put the worm inside there, and you just roll. Did you just moan?
No, I was just grunting. I'm tired.
And you just slide the O-ring right onto it. It's that easy. And then you take your hook.
It's got a drop shot weight on it, but
try and center it as much as you can.
yep. Again, drop shot weight on it, but whatever.
And you take your hook and just a little bit of the worm. I like to go through a little bit of the worm,
And that's it.
and that's it.
The thing we didn't really talk about is why would you even use that tool? Why is it so beneficial? Especially if you're fishing the Yamamoto brand Senkos, they are super soft. That's what makes the Yamamoto brand the best in my opinion though, because it's got the best action. From that center point, whether it be just a hook or using the O-ring, it will bend over way more than say like a Yum brand, right? And because of that, it's got a much better like wobbling action as it's falling. The both ends like kind of flail a lot more. But if you just put the hook through it, you have now introduced basically a fault within it, right? You have introduced a tear of some kind, and you will lose it even just on the cast, never mind your first fish. By putting the O-ring around it and putting your bait between the bait and the O-ring, you have not introduced any tears to that bait whatsoever. So you're going to make it last a hell of a lot longer. So that's why you want to use the O-ring on that. Grat asked, do you put the hook point toward the skinny end or the big end? Doesn't matter.
It's like moaning, but manually.
Talon, hey, that's a weighted wacky rig. Okay, if you want to go a little bit further than beginner tips here, ladies and gentlemen, if you were to take a nail weight, and it literally looks like a nail, and stuff it into the fatter end of said Senko, excuse the weight, let's just pretend that's not there, then it becomes a Neko rig, N-E-K-O, however you want to pronounce it. And it would make it so it falls like that. So the bait would stand up on its head, but your hook is up here in the middle of the bait. So if they come up and get it, they're going to get it. And it's great if you want something that's kind of similar to this, but you want to get to the bottom fast and stay there. But now you're working with a 6-inch bait. Look at how much it's going to stand up. And it's going to stand, especially if you're kind of wiggling it. And those nail weights are light. Like I've got a bunch from, I forget who. They're 5 32nd ounce. That sounds light. It is very light. When you throw it on this and you start bombing it around, it doesn't feel light. It feels like you're throwing like a 3/4 ounce for some reason. It feels heavy, but it makes a huge difference. To the tune of about 7 pounds, 5 ounces of beautiful largemouth. That's what I caught my PB on last year, was a Neko rig Senko.
And these O-rings are not fishing specific. They're literally just O-rings. You can go to any hardware store. I don't even remember what size these are. Was it like 3/8 or quarter or something? I don't know. But you can just get a bunch of them. You can go and literally get 100 of them for like $2.
Yeah.
And you'll be good for pretty much all season.
Yep. Samatus here is absolutely right. The bait won't stand up if it's loaded with salt. So keep that in mind. Okay, we have covered a lot of things except line. That's the next big thing that I really want to cover. This is going to be hopefully not too deep of a dive, but something that's really important because I see, and especially the last couple of days on Facebook, a lot of bad information going around about line. I'll let you start. Cover the 3 types of lines because I end up talking way too much.
3 types of lines?
Yep.
3 generic types of lines?
Well, not brands, but I mean, there's 3. There's.
I mean, like the normal types of lines. So braid,
Yep,
fluoro, and mono.
that's true. Technically, there is more
There's
than that, but
copolymer
you're
and
right.
other-
The 3 you can find literally anywhere that everybody always brings up. What did you say?
Braid, fluoro, and mono.
Yep. Well,
Fluoro, well, mono first, braid.
remember, these are beginners, so we cannot use abbreviations.
This is 10-pound braided line.
Well,
This is 15-pound
don't be such a pedantic.
fluorocarbon. Braid. I don't like to use it unless I'm using drop shot or anything that requires a leader.
Well, before you get into technique specifics, let's back it up and talk about the pros and cons of each one. Like what properties about each one makes it better.
Well, braid literally has no stretch in it at all, and is as sensitive as you can get.
Right, because there's no stretch.
Because there's literally almost zero stretch in it. There is barely any, but you don't notice it. You will never notice it.
Right. No, I know it's less than 1%. It's not 0, but it's less than 1%. Right. It is effectively 0.
And then fluorocarbon. This is 15 pound. This is pretty much all I use for jig fishing and any sort of, like, if I'm going like with this was this 3/8 or half ounce?
That one is either 3/8 or half, but that looks like a half.
I will throw 15 pound fluorocarbon on that. Fluorocarbon sinks, but it has, I don't know what percentage less stretch it does. It has than mono. It varies from brand to brand, but on average, it was like some 30% less or something like that.
If memory serves correct, and it's very generic numbers, because again, it depends on what brand you get and line weight and the whole 9 yards. But if memory serves correct, average numbers and just kind of like ballpark, monofilament stretches like 20 to 30%, I think, whereas fluorocarbon is more on like 10 to 15%. So, and those numbers are a little bit off, but those rough ratios is pretty accurate for like how far apart they are, and also how far apart away they are from braid. So mono is by far your stretchiest line.
Yeah.
Fluorocarbon in between the two. It still stretches a little bit, but not a lot.
It doesn't.
Again, depending on brand.
Yeah, true.
And model.
Yeah, true.
Right.
Extremely sensitive. You will feel freaking goby fart on this stuff on your bait. And then
I don't have monofilament. It's more fluoro, but
so we'll pretend this is mono.
Yep.
Mono stretches a mile, and it floats. Kinda.
Okay. Well, no, it does float pretty good. So it's like
it floats better than fluoro does.
Fluoro just straight up sinks.
Yeah, it definitely does. Like if you're out throwing some sort of like light top water bait, fluoro will, if you're using something this small, it will pull it under.
Yep.
Like if you let it sit for too long, it will pull it under, and it won't act like a top water anymore.
Yeah, but if you're fishing something bigger, you can get away with it.
Right.
Like Andrew fishes 20 pound fluoro with your rat.
Fluoro, my rat.
And it's fine.
Yeah.
That's a big bait though. Like for that to be pulled down, plus he's constantly moving it.
Yeah.
And rod tip's kind of high. So because of that, you can keep the line up kind of at the top of the water. Kobe Fart is a great cologne name. Yes, it is.
You should name one of your baits that.
But anything smaller, especially that requires a pause, like do not use fluoro. So to back up a half step, if I had to break down like the top pro and con of each line, braid floats and has 0 stretch, but is terrible for abrasion resistance.
Oh yeah.
I have been seeing that misinformation going around Facebook like wildfire. Everybody's saying fluoro or braid is ideal for abrasion resistance.
Braid
no,
is indestructible.
that is wrong.
Hit a rock with that shit, it's gone.
Yep.
You're gonna break off everything.
It's great for against wood, might not be terribly bad, but if you put that against rock, you will lose it in a heartbeat. It is terrible for abrasion resistance.
You cast over a rock with a jig using straight braid, and that fish picks it up and pulls it back underneath the other side of the rock. You're gonna lose that fish.
Yep. Fluorocarbon sinks is, I believe, the most invisible as far as underwater visibility.
I would think so. Yeah.
Phenomenal abrasion resistance. If you're fishing around rocks, you need to be throwing fluorocarbon because that's just absolutely lasts against some insane. Like we've pulled out 4 and 5 pound bass that have literally wrapped themselves 180 degrees around a boulder on 15 plus pound fluorocarbon, and we still brought them in. They're not small fish. For anywhere in the country, I don't care where you go. If you catch a 4 pound bass, especially in a tournament setting, you're feeling damn good. I don't care if you're in Maine or Texas. If you have a 4 pounder, you're still feeling good 99% of the time.
Yeah.
And like, you know, to be able to do that with fluoro is great. If you do that with braid, it's going to break off immediately. But it sinks. So that's good for, with that limited stretch, it's good for like bottom contact baits, especially around structure. Moving baits, it's great because you don't care if it sinks.
Chatterbait, spinnerbait, anything like that. Bigger crankbaits. Yeah, you can use bigger crankbaits if you really want to.
I use straight fluoro on all my crankbaits because I like fishing rocks all the time anyway.
So do I, but a lot of people do use mono for their cranking baits.
Yes, and I'll get into that. There's a reason why behind that too. For most cases, it's not like a blanket statement. The other added benefit with fluoro, because it has that limited stretch, limited visibility, makes great for leader. So guys like me that throw a ton of spinning setups, where you go braid to leader, you get the best of both worlds. Braid gives you zero stretch, insane sensitivity, plus casting distance, because the same weighted line of braid, so say 20-pound braid, the diameter of that is the same as, say, 10-pound fluorocarbon. It's not quite a 2-to-1, but it's pretty close. I think it's like 20-pound braid is the same as... Actually, I think it's lighter. I'll have to double check, but it's something along those lines, right? Like, you know, a 10-pound braid, the diameter on it is like, I think the same as 4-pound fluorocarbon. So you still get that strength, but that thinner diameter, you get that, and plus the smoothness of the braid, you get crazy castability. Couple that with a fluorocarbon leader, and you get the abrasion resistance when you're fishing like we typically like to do for smallmouth, deep rocks. You bust into those rocks all day
50,
long.
60 feet deep.
Yep. And that gives you that, just the added security blanket. And then monofilament, stretchier than stretchy, which a lot of people like for crankbaits, especially jerk baits too, where you got those really thin gauge hooks. So when you go to set the hook, you're not ripping those spindly little hooks out of the fish's mouth. You've got kind of extra compensation in your hook set from the additional stretch of monofilament. It floats, so if you're using heavier duty stuff and you want to use top water, but you don't want to go to braid, then you want monofilament, because it's going to stay up on top for you all the time. Pretty good abrasion resistance, not as good as fluorocarbon, but pretty good. So if you're fishing around, again, rocks, it's good. That's like pretty much the gist of it. It still works good for leader material, especially if you're not going crazy. You can use it for bottom contact baits and stuff, but just know that because of that stretch, you're going to have to compensate for that with your hook set, which anybody that's seen any of my videos knows what my hook set is like, because I grew up until I was about 22 years old. Literally, I was in a boat from before I could walk and talk until 22 years old, and I only use mono with way underpowered rods. Now you know why I have such a hook set. I had to I could get a good hook set, man.
I just learned, and I just do it now because it's fun.
It really is.
And our drags are not completely locked.
No, there is
disclaimer.
Right.
They are backed off some, so when we set the hook like that, it's gonna give. The drag is gonna slip.
Yep.
Sometimes.
So backing up a little bit, Joyous Fox said northern fish at 4 pounds are monsters compared to Florida 4 pounds. To an extent, yes, I agree with that. But if you're in Florida, with the exception of some rare windows, if you came in with 5 4-pounder, this is 20 pounds. I don't care where you are in the country.
20 pounds.
In 80% of the year, a 20-pound bag is damn good, even in Texas. Everybody thinks in Texas these like 30+ pound bags over and over and over again, because they're kind of misled to a degree, because all they really see from Texas up here in the Northeast is when they do tournaments down there, which is always in the prime time. So those bags are inflated. I mean, you undoubtedly can go down to Texas and smash big fish, but it's not like anybody can just go down there and catch a 30-pound bag every single time you go down. A 4-pounder is still a damn good fish wherever you go, in 80% of the cases.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That's kind of my thought on that. Less fork, you need 40. Yeah, you're not wrong, Jamie.
Jeez.
That's an outlier. It's what we call that in science. Hang on. Oh, and then one of the other things I need to bring up, if my mouse will... Hey, wake up! Where are you? There you are. Come back. There you are. Lisa said, I know a lot of it is user error because only year 2 with Baitcaster, but I'm frustrated with lines, so what do you recommend? It depends on what you're ideally going for. If you want straight fluoro...
It's 15-pound Cigar red label.
Bingo. That Cigar Red Label is phenomenal. You can find it most places now. It's a pretty commonly stocked line, and I like it way better than anything P-line.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll die on that hill.
I've had P-line. I've had... What is that other stuff? I don't remember what it was.
Was it the yellow one, the Invisix, or no? It was
No, I hate Invisix.
Yeah, no.
Which is a cigar,
and fluoro,
which
but
is cigar floral, but it's got like just the most minimal amount of stretch, and I can't stand it. I hate it.
it's a very stretchy fluorocarbon. But a lot of people like that for when they're fishing crankbaits and leader material, having like kind of that extra shock absorption. If
it would be good for that. For other people, not me. I hate it.
I don't use it for my leaders because I have mostly Red Label, but for my crankbait, I literally only buy one spool of Invisix and it's 10 pound for my cranking rod because I want just that little bit of extra give for those mega bass hooks.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It works great for it.
Gives them time to set in.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I like anything from Seagar, Lisa. My personal preference. I know a lot of guys that love Sunline, and that one's always highly recommended. I had one bad experience with it, and my confidence is shot with it. But I know literally dozens of other people that use it with zero issues. So, like, Sunline is good. I like Red Label from Seagar because you can get it anywhere pretty much now. It's cheap. It's robust. It's good stuff. But if you want to go braid,
Die with J-Braid.
that's my favorite. The Power Pro honestly is fine.
Yeah, Power Pro's fine. I just like this. It's so silky smooth.
Wicked smooth. That H strand is amazing.
Jeez.
Jeez. And then Henry, have you guys tried Fluoro Clear? It's a copolymer with fluoro coating. Been cranking with this line for years. Copolymer line is great, especially in really cold water. The problem when you get down, say, sub 45 degrees, and it could vary a little bit in water temp there, the buoyancy of your line changes in really cold water. And typically, fluoro sinks and mono floats, but below 45 degrees and or below, like, again, it's right about that point, the buoyancy of things changes a little bit, and fluoro becomes like really heavy, right? And it kind of sinks too hard, but mono still floats a little bit too much. So either one really sucks because it's either pulling your bait down or pulling it up. Whereas copolymer, which is basically a fluorocarbon coated monofilament, gets you the best of both worlds. And that becomes much more naturally buoyant at those super cold water temps. That's something I just learned recently because I used to go straight fluoro, but right after I saw it, I had the hardest time to keep my bait up and out of the weeds. And my buddy was like, that's because you're not throwing copoly. As soon as I changed, my problems went away. But as soon as I get back over 45 degrees, I rip that crap out and I go straight back to fluoro. What do we got here? Joyous Fox. Yeah, you said tournament setting for sure. I agree. Just northern fish are stronger and live longer because of shorter seasons and are much less ugly. Yeah, that's true.
Oh, that's what it was. Vanish.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Vanish myself.
I had one bad day with it. Me and Kyle both bought it.
Oh, that's when you were at your spot, right?
No, this was on... How did we go?
Was that out near his, like western New Hampshire, basically close to where we just were this past weekend?
Eastern-ish center. About here, 20 minutes from here.
Oh, okay. No, different spot.
Big lake. Half of it you can't fish.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yep. I forgot about that.
We both caught... Well, we both kept breaking off fish. And we had both got the same... What was it called again?
Vanish.
Yes, I don't even remember. Vanish line. And we just kept breaking off fish. You know, I was like, what are you using? He's like, Vanish. I'm like, so am I.
Yeah.
He just kept breaking off fish. So I never went back to it.
Nope.
It could have just been a bad either old spool or something went bad. I don't know.
Yeah.
I won't go back.
Nope. John Mango asked, Sean, you didn't like the P-Line Tactical. I don't like anything from P-Line. I tried using it for 4 seasons, and I tried the Blue Box and the Tactical, and there was another one, and I hated it all. The line memory was terrible. That was before I switched to braid to a leader on my spinning gear, but even on my casting gear, the memory was terrible. And I switched to Seagar from there, and I have not looked back. I did Red Label for the next 4 or 5 years. But in the last 3 years, because I started making more money at my job, I switched to a Brazix. That's expensive, but oh my god. That line and Tatsu, worth its weight in gold.
Tatsu and what?
The Brazix. So a Brazix from Seagar,
$40 a spool.
that one's $35 a spool
Oh.
for a 200-yard spool. That's pretty expensive. 35 or $36.
Worth it. Worth every penny.
The Tatsu, I only buy 8-pound in that because it's $46 a spool for 200 yards. But I only buy it for 8-pound test for my drop shot leader. And basically anything I want to throw 8-pound for a leader, I buy Tatsu. And I have not regretted that decision one bit. Finally, people convinced me like 2 or 3 years ago, go to Tatsu, you love it. I'm like, I'm not going to spend that much money. And then I did the math. I'm like, well, that's stupid. Like, yeah, it's expensive for $45 for one spool, but it is like unequivocally one of, not the, but one of the best lines recommended by everybody for super light duty leaders. And I switched and I love it. I've got all the confidence in the world with that stuff. You know, the diameter isn't anything crazy bigger. It's not like, 8-pound, but it's just a higher diameter line that they've just labeled as lighter. You compare it to everything else for 8-pound, it's freaking thin, man. And it's great. Great knot tying ability, like everything, whole 9 yards. Yeah, Richard, I agree with everybody else. Go to your date, buddy. Fishing can wait. I need to back up because I saw a question from Brian.
Nah, go fishing.
What knot are you tying with your braid to your bait? Do you know what the hell the name of your leader knot is?
No, I thought I knew what it was, but I have no idea. I think I made it up, honestly.
You probably did, knowing you. But it works, so don't screw with it.
I've never broken a knot.
No.
It's never came untied.
So for years I did uni to uni or a double uni. So UNI is uni. It's easy. It works great. But that knot is definitely not as strong as my Palomar knot, which is what I actually tie to my hook. I tie a Palomar on my hook on literally every single line. Doesn't matter what I'm doing. Palomar. It just works. I've had zero issues. I've had no issue with the hook sets. People talk about sometimes, depending on what knot you use, sometimes it changes the orientation of your hook. The hook point may not come straight up. I don't buy any of that. I've had zero issues. The problem is when I went uni to uni or double uni, whatever you want to call it, if I got hung up, I was breaking off my leader knot every time. So I got tired of it. And the downside to that is it's a big knot.
Because it's literally just this to this.
Right.
One line to one line.
So on spinning rods, it's okay unless you fish really late or early in the year like we do, when it's below freezing and just all the water coming up on your line builds up in your guides, they ice over, and that uni knot does not like going through the ice. Right, and then when you reel it in, it just, as soon as it gets to that first guide tip, it just stops.
Yeah.
If you're using a casting gear, it's a big knot, man. You go to bomb it, and you feel that thing come through. It feels like it's cutting your thumb in half. So
it hurts so bad.
I have to make sure, because I think Jamie at Smatus Baits there just said it. I keep getting the two confused on what the name of it is. I keep calling it the wrong goddamn thing every single time. But yes, Jamie had it right. So
maybe that's what I tie. I don't think it is
though. I tie the Alberto knot. To me, wicked easy.
No,
There's two things that I need my leader knot to pass for a test, right? And it's how quickly and consistently I can tie it.
Oh, that's super easy.
In wind. There's plenty of days when we've been out fishing, especially for deep smallies, in high wind, that if I don't have an easy one to tie in that wind, then I'm screwed. There's nothing I can do. And they're like, I don't feel confident in it. I went from the uni to uni, and I'm like, I need something thinner because of that icing problem late in the year. So, two of my old buddies there, Will, the original owner of Wicked Custom Rods, and then John, the current owner of Wicked Custom Rods, because John learned from Will too, but then John, Will tried to teach me, and we were in a tournament, and I looked at him, I was like, buddy, that's way too much. And he was like, okay. Oh, don't worry, I'll teach you. And he taught me again. And
FG.
Yeah, the FG knot. And I kind of had it, and I tried tying it home, and this is way too much, way too involved. And then John found a video that explained a little bit easier for me to follow. And I went and tied it home. I was like,
tie it around your foot.
Yeah, it's like the whole thing with an FG knot relies on tension the whole time to make it perfect. So then John sent me this video. I'm like, okay, now I understand what Will tried to explain to me. And I tied it at home, perfect. 5 or 6 tries in a row. I was like, sweet. Went back out, went fishing, tied a couple, it was great. And I went and tied something. Sent my whole leader. Where do you tie it? Sent my whole leader. What the hell? And it was gone. I don't know what it was. I went, watched the video. I confirmed I was still tying it right. I had zero confidence. I was doing something still wrong. And I don't know what. But I couldn't do it. So then there's another one. Jamie, you probably know him, John Levesque. I hope I pronounced his last name right.
Oh, Levesque.
Levesque. Yeah, you're probably right.
French.
Him and somebody else, they're like, dude, tie an Alberto knot and just call it a day. And I tied it, and for like literally the first time I tied it, I was like, well, that was easy. And I agree with you, Jamie. Sematus baits. I 10 up, 10 down. That's why I do it on every single one. It looks bulky, but it's really not. It slides through small guides, wicked easy. I can tie it in 45-mile-an-hour winds, half in the bag still from the previous night. Mint every time. Doesn't get any better.
I mean, tying knots in the wind, it's not like we're tying them in like 10 to 15-mile-an-hour winds either.
No, literally 40-mile-an-hour gusts while also getting rocked by 3+ foot waves. Like, it's not easy to just tie anything, man.
No, it's not easy just sitting.
Backing up a bit, Joyous Fox asked, have you guys caught any more of the hybrid pickerel? Been seeing them more and more. They're much prettier. Remember we were just 2 weeks ago? You pulled one out and you're like, is that a pike?
Oh, yeah.
And we both looked, and like for a brief second, I was like, whoa, what is that?
Yeah.
Because it didn't look quite like a perfect chain
the
pickerel.
bar in the eye.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a pickerel, but it looked different. It definitely looked different.
Yep.
Where
Could have
was
been that. The place of the bridge. Where there's always 1,000.
Yeah, you're right.
Joyous fun line knots are all about heavy bait throwing and how heavy the hook set needs to be. Line to line knots are all about how heavy bait you're throwing and how heavy the hook set needs to be. Well, that's the thing that John Levesque told me. He was like, I think, what did he say? He throws 40-pound braid to 20-pound fluoro. I think is what he told me in the example. He's like,
20?
no, he was doing 40 to 20.
Oh, 40 to 20.
40-pound
braid to 20-pound fluoro.
Oh, yeah. And he was like, and he's like, just Magnum hook sets. Never had an issue. I've had a couple of times now where my knot has slipped because I know I didn't tie it great when I'm throwing big baits. But on my hook sets has been fine. I don't know. I like the Alberto. It's really easy. Doesn't matter if I'm throwing 10-pound to 8-pound, or in some cases I've done 50-pound to 25-pound. And anywhere from a 1/8 ounce drop shot to a 3.5 ounce swim bait. Just works. You just cannot go wrong with an Alberto.
All right, Jamie, have a good night. If you got anybody who hasn't checked out Sematus baits, go check him out.
Yep, absolutely awesome guy. He's got a lot of good baits. He's got some sexy drop shot baits. He's got some good swim baits too that are great for like a whole host of different applications. Go check out his website, you guys, if you're looking for something. And New Hampshire based, it's always a benefit. So, Jamie, thank you for watching, man. I greatly appreciate it. Have a good night, buddy. Hammer time. Do I need to learn FG if I know Alberto? No. I think from what I've read,
learn one that you're gonna use, and one FG you can kind of mess up pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't do it right.
Right.
And find one that you're good, that'll work for you.
Confidence matters more than overall durability at the end of the day. I think technically the FG is the strongest leader knot you can tie.
It's gotta be.
But it's not easy, man. Like, I mean, if literally anything you put the time into to really practice and learn, of course, it's going to be easy at some point. But to like quickly pick it up, at least for me, and I pride myself on how well I can learn things at a rapid rate. My job, what I'm currently doing right now, should prove that. I've proven it time and time again. I can learn some crazy shit really quick. That FG knot is not an easy thing to pick up right off the bat.
No, I tried it once and I slipped. I'm like, nope, fuck this.
Yeah, and like you just said a minute ago, it leaves almost no room for error.
Right.
If you screwed up at any point, it's like the whole thing's shot. You got to start over.
It is. You let off tension once while you're tying it.
Yeah,
it's gonna slip.
Yep. Versus the Alberto knot, like there's a whole wide range of error that you can have inside of that. As long as you just get your wraps and you come back over, and you don't even need like. So with an Alberto, you make a big loop with your fluoro, and then you come, you kind of leave like an eyelet, right? You almost make what looks like a sewing needle out of your fluorocarbon. So you bring your line around and loop it back. So you got, like a nice long tag here, and then you pinch it. So you create like a little eyelet here. Take your braid, come up through that, and then wrap it around 10 times. Then from there, wrap it back 10 times and go back through that eyelet that you've created. That is essentially what you're doing with an Alberto. And you pull it tight. Those wraps, when you come back down, they don't have to be perfectly spaced. Like, yeah, you want to aim for it, but I don't really actually try. I just like, yep. Okay, we're good. And spit on it a little bit, cinch her down tight, snip the end. Anything for braid, I burn the tag on my braid. I'll always leave it about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, and I'll burn it down. Just create a little nub so I know it's never gonna slip through. But yeah, I don't know. For me, Alberto, it's just too damn easy, man. I know Blood Knot was also highly recommended, but I found the Alberto to be easier. No, the Blood Knot and Alberto are not the same.
John had a question.
John. Boop, boop, boop. John. Oh, yeah. John Cleary, what's the point of a leader line? Just less visibility of the fish?
Well, 100%. It's literally what it is. Because if you're using...
I'm getting a drink.
Like, we're throwing drop shot, or really anything, and you're in crystal clear water looking for smallmouth, and you have this bright green line coming down to this tiny little bait, and smallmouth's gonna come up in crystal clear water, they're gonna look, they're gonna see this, and then they're gonna be like, what the fuck is that? So we usually run anywhere from 6 to 8 to 10 pound leader. We'll put from anywhere, I mean, up in St. Lawrence, we were tying 20-foot leaders because we had to retie every couple minutes, every couple casts, because of the zebra mussels up there. They just destroy your line. Usually 8 to 10 foot leader is usually 8 to 12 foot leader, anywhere in that range.
So they say
two arm lengths.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they say that if you stick your arms out, batwing, right, and you go tip to finger, that is the same as you are tall. I'm 6'2", so when I tie a line, I go 1, grab it again, 2, and a half. So I get about a 15-foot leader every time I tie.
Yeah, it's usually like 10 to 12, 15, 20. I don't know. I just pull a shitload of line and I tie a leader.
How much do you tie? A shit ton.
A shit ton. But yes, it is. So it's less visible. They will not see the leader as much as they see either that dark green Power Pro or this bright green J-braid, or they have pink, blue, yellow, purple, whatever color leader braid or braid you're using.
Right. Then plus the abrasion resistance.
Yeah, correct.
Which for us we really need. We fish a ton of boulders. Not to mention 6 straight weeks of 20+ pound bags of smallmouth last fall, winter.
Literally back to back weekends.
I think I actually, so you and I had the streak, but I ruined it myself in the middle. I took my buddy Dennis out to that same spot, and we got our butts kicked. But so did everybody else. So it wasn't just us. But yeah, like literally we were fishing anywhere from 30 to 55 feet around rocks. You need both, man. Do you need it? It's up for debate. Me personally, my opinion, yes. If you don't have that braid, and I know this for a fact, you're gonna miss bites. That's what finally got me after like 3 or 4 years of my buddy Travis Rocket, who is a licensed guide, fishing guide here in New Hampshire, told me for years, dude, you need to be switching to braid, you're missing fish. Nah. Went straight 8-pound monofilament. Fishing for the first time as I'm getting more comfortable fishing like 30+ feet deep. And this was on Lake Winnipesaukee like 10 years ago now. And I'm just watching him catch fish after fish after fish. And I'm doing the same thing. Like when he first taught me how to video game fish, I'm watching the fish, watching the graph, and I'm just like, they're just not biting me. He's hands me his rod. Try that. Drop it down. Dunk, dunk, dunk. Braid makes a difference when you're fishing deep water. If 20 feet or less,
it's not deep.
Not that bad. If you're going deeper than that, dude, you gotta throw braid to leader. It makes a huge difference. Plus, braid lasts forever. Until you run out of it, like you can probably keep it on there for 3 years before you have to replace it because it's so crappy. It's gonna look sun bleached to hell. Yeah. But it's still strong. Unlike, fluoro and mono where it gets brittle and you really need to replace that stuff once a year. That braid lasts for quite a while.
So I don't throw braid. It's just my personal thing. I don't throw braid on my baitcasters. I did try it a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago for like
a couple weeks ago.
For
that
like
was
2 weeks.
Is that when you called me?
Yeah.
How do you do this? Yeah, but then you told me you liked it.
Yeah, then I loved it. And then I broke off 2 freaking chatterbaits.
Oh.
Back-to-back casts.
Yeah.
And I don't like braid on my baitcasters. But fishing super deep with baitcasters, I might have to switch back over in the fall.
Yep.
That place, I think I might have been missing. I mean, I probably was missing fish.
I guarantee it.
Especially that deep.
Yep.
But the bites didn't really feel like you get a bite in 10 feet of water, you can feel it just go up, 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 up. That deep, it just feels like whoomp, whoomp, whoomp. And then you go, oh shit, okay.
Which makes me wonder. So at the end of the year last year, he caught his PB smallmouth at 5 pounds even.
6 times.
Yeah. And he, I remember he was lifting up on it, and that fish was probably in 45 feet of water. Well, we'll say between 40 and 45. I'm not sure that we were quite at the 45-foot depth, but
it was
pretty close.
Yeah, somewhere in between there.
And I remember he's straight 15-pound fluoro, and you lifted up on it, and then you're like, that feels like a perch. And I was like, you should have said it, and you did. But I'm thinking, like, I wonder what that would have felt like on my rod with braid with a short fluoro leader. Like, if I would have felt thump, thump, thump.
Maybe.
At that deep, like that much water to go through, I'm curious, like, how much
just
difference
felt
would
like
that made.
Like it felt like a perch was nipping at it.
Right. And you saw me, especially when we were fishing like the river, like even what seemed like little bites. When we were dragging 35 plus feet, like my whole rod's like dunk.
Oh yeah. It could have made a big difference.
Yep.
I'm still feeling them at almost 50 feet with fluorocarbon.
Right.
But
how many of you not felt little subtle bites?
Probably a lot.
Yeah. Joyous, that's the thing we had covered earlier with braid. It's strong until you meet a rock, and that's where being able to tie a really good leader is absolutely worth your while. Do you really need to do it? Up for debate. Depends on your style of fishing. We literally fish everything, everywhere, all year long. So for us, it's worth to do it because we fish from 6 inches of water to 60 feet of water. Confidently and consistently. It's not like we fished once last year in 60 feet and now we can say we fished 60 feet of water. No, we fish 60 feet quite often now.
Quite often.
You know, that 50 to like that was our kind of our next step, getting 50 feet and beyond. And St. Lawrence River gave us that confidence.
We're like 30 feet, yeah, that's deep. And then we were like 40 feet, we're like, oh shit. And then we're like, oh, 60. Okay, there's nothing down there. And then we start pulling fish after fish after fish.
Right.
Like, okay, all right, they are down there.
It doesn't. And that's the thing, like it feels you're absolutely right. When we got 30 and to like that next step, or even like 20 to 30, like, oh man, that's big. And then 35, 40 feet, I don't know, man. But like once we broke past that 40-foot barrier, it doesn't really see. It's like, oh, okay, look, it's
just dropping 30 feet. It's just dropping for another like 10 seconds.
Right. Well, we did it at the Brownie Factory. Remember, we went out to that one hump in the middle. That after I updated my map card, like we all of a sudden I was like, oh, there's a giant hump out here we never knew about. And it topped out at like 75 feet, and we're like, yeah, we'll try it. And we fished it for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
There wasn't a single thing out there.
I hooked into something giant. You're on the phone with Chrissy. I gotta go, Andrew has something huge. Dude, my rod was doubled over and it was like, whoom, whoom. I was sitting there reeling up for like 5 minutes. It was just a piece of metal. I don't know what it came off of. It was probably an old prop.
Dude, that was funny. Neither one of us couldn't believe it. We're like, what the hell? Wait, John Clary. Oh, I know you, buddy.
Yeah.
I passed him.
I'm sure you passed him.
I'm positive. Or is
he
it?
He lives in Milford.
Then no, he's not him. There's another Tacoma, a silver one that I pass on my way home. Over, you were TJ, where Travis's parents live over there on the turnpike.
Mm-hmm.
Like right there. I've passed him like 10 times. He always waves at me. Somebody knows me. I don't know him.
It's all right.
Joyce Fox said, strengthening braid, invisible, super thin, properties of mono or fluoro, depending on the type. For copolymer. Yeah. All right. So we've covered like the tools. We've covered hooks. We briefly touched on weights. I mean, especially weighted weights. Weighted hooks. We touched on hooks in general. One of the things we haven't touched about is techniques, and it's already getting pretty late. So I apologize for anybody that's coming back to watch this that bailed out on the stream earlier, because that was one of the things I really wanted to get to cover is like basic techniques that are really good to get started with for beginning anglers. We already touched upon one, and you threw it together. Like when you're taking people fishing for the first time, what's the first damn thing you put in their hand every time?
Drop shot.
Drop shot. Or
wacky rig.
Yeah. Wacky rig Senko,
that
man.
little duber. I was telling John's new to fishing this year. Well, he has fished with me a long time ago. but he's just getting back into it now.
Hey, Limit.
It's Wacky Rig Senko. That's all it is.
You can do everything with that.
Some of the biggest fish I've ever heard of have been coming off of this. Like, honestly.
Yep. It's just this giant profile that still presents itself in a very finesse thing. And it's mindless. And I don't and do mean that in a mean way. It literally is mindless, man. You bomb the thing out, you watch your line, and you can see a very like consistent ripple, right? That comes off your line as it's sinking. And if you get bit, all of a sudden you can see the shockwave of your line jumping, go through the water, and you can see like an immediate
wake
and dramatic increase in the line of that, or the speed that your line is now sinking. Also, with the fact that it has now changed directions.
Yeah.
It literally does not get any easier. Wacky Rig Senko is the easiest thing, and it's literally the first thing I put on any new angler that I bring out in my boat. If I'm in a place where there's not a lot of vegetation, but if I'm bringing somebody that I know it's new, I go to a place that you can like easily throw that all day long.
Speaking of which, my nephew.
Sorry, John, and everybody else's wallet. This stream should be called "How to Drain Your Bank Account on Tackle Warehouse."
It's true. Sorry.
It is true.
I had my nephew out this past weekend. I had him on drop shot. Same thing. Kind of mindless. Kinda can be. Where we were, it's kind of toss and just pretty much wait for them to bite because they're gonna be in a certain area. I had him throwing drop shot and he hooked into a fish. He didn't even know it. And he's like, "Why is my line moving? Dude, you have a fish, reel in." Like, he reels in and it was like almost a 2-pound bass. Like, sometimes they come right back at you with this stuff and you don't even see your line move. Sometimes they take off the other way. Sometimes they go left or right. Just always got to be watching your line, or sometimes or lifting up once in a while just to feel it. Just feel if the fish is there or if you're stuck in a log.
For drop shot or
For, well, really anything. For a wacky rig.
Yep. Yeah, because I mean, there's most of the time, my personal experience, you're gonna see that thing move.
Yeah, you're gonna see the line
up.
jump.
But there's been plenty of times they just come up and like inhale it and then just sit there.
Yeah, they don't move.
They just kind of like nose up to it and,
Yep.
and then just sit there, just
You lift up and you're like, "Oh, it's heavy. Am I stuck in? Oh, wait, it's moving."
And then they just, yeah. And that's when it gets really dangerous, where that hook remover tool becomes really important, because that's when you're most likely to gut hook the ever living hell out of those fish.
Yeah.
So that's where that becomes a critical tool to have in the bag. That's why
This is honestly one of the baits that I usually gut hook fish with.
Yeah, more often than not, that's the worst offender.
They usually inhale it. And that's a lot of the time is when you see a lot of fish. If you catch fish sometimes with hooks down their throat and just lines cut.
Yeah.
Because people just don't know how to take care of, don't know how to get the hook out, and they're using like a 5-aught hook. Wacky rigging. Use a smaller hook. It's easier to get it out.
Yep. Oh, what do we got here? Lisa, thank you very much for the donation. Lisa donated $15 for the stream.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. It's first donation of the night. Thank you very much. Hey, and actually, that's something I want to talk about in just a minute. But I don't want to get too sidetracked yet until we at least cover one more technique. But Lisa, seriously, thank you. That greatly appreciate it. We have already hit one major goal for donations, but again, I'll cover that 1 second. So Wacky Rig Senko is the first one. To expand on that, because John just asked, best weedless wacky hook. I don't know what it is. It's a Gamakatsu. It's literally
Never used one.
the same as like that. It looks like it's kind of big. I don't know, I made to put my hand behind it. It's like a 2-aught like drop shot style hook, but it's got almost like a plastic keeper that comes around, and it's like U-shaped, and you cup it inside on the barb or the hook, and it's great. It keeps it perfectly weedless. I have a ton, and I've been really impressed. I started throwing them last year, and I can throw all sorts of wacky rig stuff up in the vegetation. And that stupid little spindly thing, my case is over there. I could get it, but
I've never seen it.
it's over there. Lisa, again, thank you. You're very welcome. I'm glad we can help teach people here. Henry, I saw your question about my 360. I'll come back to that. But first, one more technique, because this is the second most important thing for beginning anglers. Wacky rig Senko, absolutely number one. Great for open water. If you get the right style hook, you can fish around vegetation. Number two, Texas rig, baby.
The moneymaker.
The moneymaker. So, quick rigged it up, and again, you can do this with so many things. That's just a striking rage craw. It's got a bullet weight on the front. I do not peg my weights. If you're fishing like super thick vegetation, I know some people that will peg it, and that what that means is like putting something to keep the weight right there. You can stuff a toothpick through the top of the weight just enough so that when you try to slide the weight, it doesn't move, and then break it off. And that's enough to peg it, and that works great. They make things called like little bobber stoppers. They're really thin, round pieces of plastic that you basically clamp to your line. That works great. You can set it right in front of the weight or just up a little bit so your weight can still slide but not go anywhere. They make what they call
rubber ones,
rubber T-stops, and it looks like a rubber toothpick, but you know, it's super thin and tapers up to a fatter diameter, and it's got like a flat flange on the back.
Looks like a nail.
Yeah, that even better. It does look exactly like a nail. And you pull it up through, and then you use like your side cutters or your pliers, and you cut it, and that is great because it's rubber, so it's not going to put any abrasion on your line like a toothpick potentially could, but a toothpick's pine. It's going to be fine.
Not gonna do anything.
But there's a pro and a con to both. More often than not, leaving your weight completely unpegged is great, because what's going to happen is when you cast it down,
And get the tank.
we should get the
We
tank.
have plenty of room now.
All right, yep. Hang on 1 second. We're going to reconfigure. While Andrew gets the tank, I'm not going to let him step on my $150 friggin' drop shot reel, or ice fishing reel. Let me move a few things. And so the other thing too, please stick around, because we're going to cover the difference between casting and spinning setups as well, and you know, pros and cons, what's good, what's not. Hang on there, Super Chief. I'm still trying to move stuff, including myself.
So drunk looking for this tank.
Huzzah! Oh. Demonstration calling. What I'm really hopeful for, and I'm far away, so I'm quiet. Oh yeah. Slide it towards. Yeah, that switch. Good. My camera's not quite center. And we're back. Okay, so what I'm hoping that the tank's deep enough that this will actually adequately demonstrate why I don't like having this peg. Sorry, I'm still trying to get closer to the mic. Okay, let's see if I can do it like this. So I'm gonna put the weight down the bottom, and then I'm gonna drop the bait behind it. It didn't fall quite right behind it, although I do have a heavier hook for this. But see how it lags behind? Versus if I had it pegged and I dropped it, it pulls it straight to the bottom, right off the bat, which is what you don't always want. Sometimes that can be enough where this thing comes bombing down and it's gonna fall. The weight and the bait are gonna fall at a very fast rate, but that weight's gonna hit and the bait almost hits the brakes, and then it falls at a slower rate. So depending on how deep it is and just how far away your weight can get from that bait before it falls, that can be enough to trigger a bite itself. And you snap it up and let it fall down, same deal. It's going to come up, and then your weight's going to fall away, and then your bait's going to fall nice and slow right behind it. That's the benefit of not pegging your weight on a Texas rig. That can be enough to be the difference between triggering a bite and not triggering a bite. Oh yeah, tied up on the other one, so just straight wacky it up. So that's food for thought on what it is you're doing. Now, this kind of goes beyond a little bit from the whole beginner premises, right, that we're trying to hit here. Going to that next step. I didn't set anything on that.
Loud.
Like that's it, man. When it comes to Texas rig, like just do it like that. Just put a 1/4 ounce to even a 3/8 ounce. If you want to get a little frisky, go to a 1/2 ounce weight. Don't peg it, bomb it out, and like literally this is all you're gonna do, right? If you're gonna go out there, so Senko, bomb it, let it sit to the bottom. You can lift it up like real high and try and let it sink again, and that's it. Cast and repeat. Texas rig, what you want to try and do, I'm gonna try and do the best I can because this angle is not great, but I basically really slowly lift the rod tip up, and what I'm trying to do, if I can exaggerate this, is basically take, there's a line in there, get out of here. No, I want to take my bait and bring it up at a slow angle. And then when I kill it, so I basically try and retrieve the bait at a 45-degree angle. I kill it, the weight falls right back down, and this falls straight back down. And then 45 up, and then it falls back down. And repeat and repeat. You can sweep the rod if you're fishing completely clear, wide open water and getting close to vegetation, and just drag it along the bottom. But honestly, for my entire life, I fished Texas rig. That's all I knew until I was in my early 20s before I started to learn all these different techniques. Lift it up, kill it, and wait. Lift it up, kill it, and wait. It's great. On the other side of it, to now expand on that more intermediate thing, if you want to pin the weight or peg it, that's where you kind of snap it a little bit more aggressive. And it's that sudden rapid movement, both up and down. Sometimes it's that reaction, you're like, whoa, what the fuck was that? Whoa, you know, and that gets them riled up, especially if they're sometimes in a lethargic mood where they're kind of going after it, like, nah, well, I mean, I see it, but
and then
yeah,
they
whatever.
Snap it, and you're like, whoa, okay.
Right, but yeah, now you're getting into like their predatory nature, right? All of a sudden, oh my god, that thing's moving so fast, I need to eat it. That's more advanced. We'll get into that later, but like that's the gist of it for as far as Texas rig goes. So we got Wacky Rig Senko. There you go. See how both the ends kind of flick and twitch? Bring it all the way up and let it sink. I forget how fast that sinks. Do it again. I can see it in the stream. Yeah.
You can't see it. It's not falling long enough to do it.
No, but I mean, I can see it from here, but I think the frame rate on the camera is too low. Like if this was a 60 frame per second camera, you'd be able to see it. But I can see the ends kind of wobbling as that worm's falling. And that is really where, I guess, like the main triggering action of what makes a Wacky Rig Senko look so good. It's that. It's the way the ends kind of flutter and roll as it falls down. And again, it's kind of hard to see because we don't have the best camera. It's not 60 frames per second. It's only 30 frames. So you lose some of that resolution in the action. But trust me.
It's pretty much doing this.
Yeah, that's exaggerating the exact action.
It's falling, it's kind of just like blip, 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 blip. And they usually hit it on the way down.
Yep.
Or as soon as it hits the bottom.
Yeah.
Or as soon as they don't see it come down and they're swimming by it or whatever, and you kind of just like pop.
You might be too far away for them to hear you.
Oh, true.
Sorry, allow him to repeat that.
Sometimes when they're swimming by and they didn't see it on the initial fall, they'll be swimming by and you give it that little pop, pop. They'll smoke. They will.
Yep.
It's just gonna happen. There's not many times where you go out and throw this where you're not going to at least catch one or two.
Right. Talon, yes, you may ask one advanced technique question. By all means, please. Joyous Fox said, leave the weight unpegged as you twitch the rod. It makes it look like the bait is chasing the weight and triggers feeding opportunism. Yes, that is the exact perfect way to put it. It looks like bait chasing bait, which that in and of itself, you could not have put that more perfect, John. Or Joyous Fox, thank you. Hammer time. Fill that boy with shaky heads and crank a strobe light.
We need more hands.
Blind to binda. I wonder if I could inject a tiny bit of air into the plastic, get it to drop a bit slower.
Z-Man
does it, and there's another one, I can't remember the brand, but my buddy Josh, before Andrew and I started fishing together, so this is like 6 or 7 years ago. What brand was it? They're called Aircross. And it's the pinchers, they look like little like balloons basically, and they're literally injected to be filled with air. So they stand up because there's air inside of it, and they're buoyant, and it helps it stand up, and that helps the claws like stand out like that too. It's crazy.
Pretty sure Josh showed me those.
I think he did.
Pretty sure he did.
Bill asked, Texas rig, craw creature or worm, when one over the other? Both? All the above? Yes. When we're Texas rigging, when do you like to go worm versus craw or creature? Creature and craw to me are kind of interchangeable, although like craw is more finessey approach. Creature is a like, bulky
look at me approach.
Yeah. Look at me.
Yeah. From worm to creature craw. Texas rig?
Yep, just specifically for Texas rig.
When I want to get through some stuff without having to use a super heavy weight. You want to when you're punching and stuff like that, you want to use the least amount of weight as possible to get through. And if you're using a cylindrical bait compared to something that's big and bulky, you'll be able to use a lighter weight to get this through if you're Texas rigging it than you are, say, if you're using a craw or a creature bait. Sometimes I'd rather use a worm before throwing while punching, because it's so easy to get through.
Right.
Was that the question? Did I answer it right?
I think you did, yeah.
I don't know.
For me, I keep it pretty simple. If I'm fishing more vertically, I'm going craw or creature. And depending on the time of the year, more often than not, I like a craw better. Like, it's in between like a finesse / bulky presentation, especially as the water gets warmer. I'll use something like a rage craw, like any leg that has a lot more action on the fall.
Rage craw, definitely.
If I feel like something like the I already forgot like the creature, that fatter presentation, I like better in darker water. Clearer water, I tend to go thinner and stick with the craw.
Yeah, true.
Darker water, I like that bulkier presentation, that black and blue. It just helps it stand out, but it doesn't look huge because it's kind of distorted by the lack of clarity in that water. So if I'm fishing much more vertically, like I'm up in the weeds and I'm trying to dink and dunk in all those little patches I'm finding, I like a craw or a creature. If I'm fishing open water, which is now we're at the time of the year where he was just talking about Carolina rig on Monday, and I'm fishing more open water, deep rock piles, like I'm specifically targeting far out structure, deep grass, I would live for dragging anywhere from a 6 to a 10-inch ribbon-tail worm.
Ribbon-tail worm. Yeah, I don't ever throw Senkos. I usually don't.
Nope.
If I'm gonna throw a worm, it's usually gonna be a ribbon-tail worm, and like you said, I'm either gonna be trying to punch it through something, or I'm gonna be fishing out in the open.
Yep.
On rock piles or something. But the worms, I don't know. They would definitely work. I just don't. I usually try to get the bigger, bulkier profile to target those bigger fish.
Yep.
That's just what I do.
I'm going to straight to the bottom. SmackDown Outdoors. Thank you, 1, for watching, and 2, punching craw tubes. That's something we actually talked about the last stream 2 weeks ago. I have some. I've tried it several times. Man, I haven't caught a single fish on it. I know it works. I know plenty of guys that fish it and they kill it on it. Just it's one of those other baits that for whatever reason, despite like conditions and everything being good, maybe I just wasn't being patient with it enough. I have yet to catch a single fish on any one of those craw tubes. But I still have a bunch, and I'm gonna try next time we go out. Now I gotta back up a little bit. Talon, that's his advanced question. This kind of like out of the norm for everything else we're talking about, and geez, it's already 10 o'clock. There's still one more topic I want to cover. 2 more things. Swim bait braid. So sorry, Talon asked swim baits, braid or mono, and what type of rod and reel?
Fluoro.
Yep, fluoro, never mono. Too much stretch for way too big of a bait, man.
Yeah. You want as much. Well,
it depends on what you mean by swim baits.
Slam the door effect.
Right.
Really.
You talking big boy baits?
Hit that thing. You don't want any stretch. You want as much force going from those hooks into that thing's mouth as possible. You don't want any stretch, in my opinion. What are you looking for? Oh yeah.
That's not a little baby hook, bud.
You want mono.
You gotta send that thing home.
Yeah.
Through like an inch of plastic in a lot of cases, but if you're talking like big boy swim baits, you're talking like 2 inches of soft plastic.
I mean,
that's deep throat.
This really.
But you heard me. But you still got a lot of plastic for that to deflect around. You got to send that hook point home. You need a big rod and you need a big line.
Even this isn't even that big of a bait. I mean, it's
no, in the swim bait world, that's a baby.
Yeah, this is a wee baby. You still want to use at least probably 17 on this.
Yep.
At the minimum.
20 pound. Because then you can go to the big stuff.
Right.
I've kept it pretty simple. I've got 2 rods right now. I've got a third one on the way from Wicked Custom Rods to pair with one of my, well, actually, I already have it right here. My brand new loose Super Duty. It's not the 300, it's just regular Super Duty. I'll have 2 with straight 20-pound fluorocarbon. And that's for my swim baits and my bigger, like 6+ inch, like 2.5 ounce plus crank down, like basically giant square bills. My crank down swim baits, hard bodies with big honking treble hooks on them. Now, I want it to get down. I like fishing around rocks. I want the abrasion resistance. There's not that much stretch with heavier line like that, and I'm fishing an 8-foot heavy fast rod that's rated 1 to 4 ounces on those, on both of these. Actually, one's gonna be rated 1 to 6 ounces. That's an 8-footer, and the other one I have from Lose is a 1 to 4 ounces. But same deal, 8-foot heavy fast. So I can, yeah, you got one rated friggin' 12 ounces. But you can, like, if you're fishing a soft body with a 12-aught beast hook, but that's a heavy duty gauge, dude. If you can throw those things legitimately 100 yards. A lot of guys really don't understand what 100 yards really looks like.
It's 300 friggin' feet.
And I proved that how many casts did you look over and be like, Jesus Christ?
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
With my new Lose rod, I was literally bombing 300-foot casts with a 7.8-inch Kitech on a 12-aught hook with a half-ounce weight.
Yeah, you were throwing, I was like, where the hell did that come from?
It's right down there.
Jesus, dude.
Dude, that you need a stout rod and thick line to be able to set that hook through an inch of plastic from that far off. Now, on the other side of it, I still throw a braid on one setup that's rated a half to 3 ounces for all my top water baits because they're all treble hooks. And even though they're stout hooks, they're trebles. You really don't need to fucking, hammer it to get those to set in. But you still want backbone.
I still do.
Well, like we did that stream with the swim bait scrutiny guys, right?
Yeah.
And like Tom and Ty both said the same thing. When they hook into a big fish like that, they have 2+ ounces of weight hanging off them. That's a lot of momentum to rip those hooks out. So you want backbone to set it home and fucking hammer those fish in, drag them right in.
You're pretty much reeling as you're pretty much almost reeling as you're setting the hook. You hammer into that and you just crank as fast as you can to get that thing in. There ain't no playing and fighting with it. It's get it in.
There's another channel if for anyone watching this, and we're kind of diverting a little off topic here, but Working Class Zero on YouTube, all big baits. That's all this guy does, and he's got some killer soft body baits. Good luck getting them. He has a video specifically talking about big hook sets on big swim baits and going over like rod and line and all that stuff. Like I highly recommend, because we're still very new to this, like the big boy baits, right? Like we're talking the giants that require an 8-foot Mondo rod and big heavy duty reels and 20+ pound line. So
damn tactical bassing.
Yeah, and tactical he's good at it too. All right, sorry. So we kind of did a deep dive here. We're gonna back up. Blind to Binded. Yes, we actually talked about that a couple of weeks ago. You guys gotta check out the Striper Sniper Snake Worms. That was brought up. Joyce Fox, Senkos in deep water for smallies and around rocks. Yes, absolutely. Ryan's Outdoors Adventures. I always get bit on my go-to baits, tend not to switch it up, and I need to expand. Bring hundreds of baits, but I'll use 1 and 2 colors. Dude, if it works, it works. Don't overthink it.
Yep, do not overthink it.
Nope. Brady Babkirk. Take it there. Yeah. What lures do you use for 10-foot plus feet? Oh, dude, that's way too wide open.
All of them.
Yeah, literally all of them. Sorry. Like, I'll legitimately answer that question. We both will, but you gotta, hey, Doc Swampy, glad you could join us.
Hey, you're late.
Right?
Oh, he said, I'm sorry, late.
That's a good. Brady, you expand on that. Like, what specifically do you mean? Like, give us some more specific scenarios for that. Fishing Boat, glad you could join us. That's all right, buddy. Everybody needs their sleep. I'm running on like 4 hours average here myself the last 3 weeks. John Mango, 30-pound braid is way too weak for real big baits. Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. If I'm throwing 50-pound on all my big top water.
If I was throwing a big bait with braid, I'd go at least 50.
Yep.
Probably 65.
Over that just seems like overkill, man. Like 50-pound braid is still, that's insane. It's 50-pound braid. That's a lot.
Yeah, I know, but if you're working something through rocks,
yeah,
you want as much diameter as possible.
That's true. But again, I'm only throwing braid for things that I'm throwing on top.
True.
And if I'm in the cases where I've been using my braided setup to throw a second like bottom contact or swimming it along the bottom, I tie on like a 50-foot leader of 20-pound fluoro.
Which is meh.
Yeah, because it's probably actually closer to like 30 to 35 feet. It's not quite 50, but I throw a ton because on bottom contact, so that angle from point of bait, because it's so far to my rod, it's a shallow angle. So I don't want that leader knot to get anywhere near the rocks. So I'll tie it super long and just kind of pull it along from there. So one of the things before we get to casting versus spinning to kind of wrap up this topic for beginners, one of the things that we did for donations, right? We talk about it every week, and we cannot thank you guys enough. We're originally trying to get a new digital camera so we can do 4K, 60 frames per second for the stream, which would be amazing. But had to change it up because my job has become so demanding. I've never worked so hard before in my life. I'm working crazy overtime hours every single week, and I've been struggling to keep up with the channel. Like, it was actually looking like the channel's gonna be done. You know, you get the live streams, that was it. So I said to Andrew, like, well, screw it, let's just get you a computer because he needs one and make it work. So we waited for Prime Day. Worked out mint. I knew of like 10 different components that could work for a PC that would give him something good enough for editing and gaming. But I mean, really, anything that can edit well can game onto. So editing was obviously the main focus. And I ended up getting him a complete build out to go with 2 components that we had donated by one of our subscribers from the streams. And between those, there's actually one of your hard drives is over there behind that suction cup. So one component's already come in. I was literally able to build him an entire PC for $600, which is basically exactly what we had in donations from all these streams so far. That's insane. Not only that, like, we've had that much financial support from everyone, but the fact that we're able to now turn around 100% of it reinvested back into the channel.
Right.
Got him a PC. Everything will be here by Saturday the latest. We'll get it built up. He'll probably have it ready to go next week. Just need a copy of Windows. And then we got to get him the editing software. So Windows is like $95. And then the editing software, I think, is on sale right now for $200. And then I have to upgrade my editing software, which the upgrade I think is only $150, something like that. So we're close. I'll dump my own money into the rest of it to make this work. But like that's insane that you guys donated that much. And then I was able to capitalize on a good sale through Amazon that we got him a whole PC that's like actually gonna be pretty fucking good too, man.
Right? I
like,
was not expecting any of that.
I'm a bargain shopper. Oh, I think I saved, total price was at least $400, but knocking on the door, $500 saved just from the stuff that I bought on the Amazon sale. I'm very frugal. I know how to stretch my dollar. And the plus side of having recently built 2 PCs, like, I know how to go about finding, like, okay, any one of these 10 components is gonna work great. I know what my preference is, but depending on the value of the sale, I'll be happy in any of these. And day one, man, looking into that sale on Monday, I hit perfect on every freaking component. And it was awesome. So it was, yeah, Town, you're probably right. There was a spot I found a legit copy of Windows 10 Professional for $50, but I can't get a hold of that guy again, so I don't know what's gonna happen.
One on Rocket League to prove his worth.
Ferris, can I ask what rank you are in Rocket League?
Yeah, I'd like to know.
What are you again?
I'll wait.
Okay. So we can't thank you guys enough for how much support you've given us. Like, that's insane. And the fact we got more donations tonight, whether you do it through YouTube, like they take a crazy cut, you do it through the video description. I've got linked to my PayPal and Venmo, like all of that.
Silver 3, okay.
Like it's crazy. Like, it's awesome that you guys are giving back to us so that we can just keep this going, and now we can make it better that I can get Andrew on board with editing. So like, there's that other series of bash fishing quick tips I'm trying to get more time into, but I can't do all 3 in my job. It's just it's too much. So like, this is good. We're moving in the right direction. I'm excited about all this, man. Hey, look at that. Where I found the video. I found a video card for one of my own gaming buddies for $100. Anybody that's in the PC market right now knows how bad the video card market has been for the last year. I found a pretty damn good video card used for $100. Actually bought 2. One for you, and then $100 out of my own pocket for my kid to replace an ancient GPU on my old PC that my 9-year-old, well, 8-year-old, about to be 9, plays on. And that was my buddy just saying, hey, I need your mailing address because I'm shipping them tomorrow. We're moving on upwards, boys.
Yep.
Cannot thank you all enough. It has been awesome. So, last but not least, one of the things we have to cover. Casting, spinning. Help me out here, buddy. Where's that spinning rod? Real. No. I had a nice...
Oh. You mean the lose?
Grabs an ice fishing rod. No. No. Casting.
Spinning.
This is the Lose Super Duty. Not the 300, but still Super Duty. So it's got a lot of brass internals. And it's definitely not their top of the line. But as far as like heavy duty applications go, it's a damn good reel. Versus Team Lose Custom Pro Speed Spin. I believe that's their flagship spinning reel. I think it's $130 retail. Those things are so nice. That's a 4,000 series size too. So that's like big spool. Light line, longer rod, bombing casts with a setup like that.
150, probably depending on the weight, probably 250.
Yep.
Max,
Love it.
Probably.
Let's talk about different applications where one's better than the other. First and foremost, you do not need a casting rod for 90% of the things you do. Really, you don't.
You don't.
Is it better? Up for debate, depending on what you're capable of. It really comes down to personal preference and what you yourself are capable of. There are plenty of spinning configurations that you can make work for really heavy duty applications. And I have a rod specifically for that. It's a 2000 series Lose, this series, the Team Lose Custom Pro Speed Spin. It is a great reel. It's a bit smaller. I run 10 pound on it, and I throw it on a 6'9" medium heavy fast spinning rod that's rated at 3/4 ounce. I can throw 1+ ounce baits on that and bomb it.
Oh, yeah.
Into the wind or not, doesn't matter. It's a spinning reel. Doesn't get any easier.
Yeah, we did it for a week straight.
Yep. And I was killing it with it.
It was so much fun.
Casting reel, when you get this set right, and especially on like heavier applications, that cannot be beat. Like that's really ideal for heavy duty stuff. Big spinner baits, big chatterbaits, big swim jigs, big jigs, big swim baits. Like that's like really where these things start to shine. You just open up that spool a little bit, finesse it in, barely thumb it. Just kiss it with the side of your thumb.
See you later.
300-foot cast all day long. It's entirely comfort and technique specific. If you had to pick out of everything we've talked about tonight, like the absolute go-to techniques where you should absolutely be throwing a casting reel versus you should absolutely be throwing a spinning reel. We'll start with the first two techniques we've said. So, wacky rig Senko. Spinning reel all day.
Spinning reel all day with probably 12 pound line. 12 to 15.
If you're going straight.
If you're going straight fluoro.
Fluoro, yep.
Yeah, 12 to 15. But if you're doing Texas rig with anything over 3/8,
yep,
definitely this. Just for heavier applications.
Right.
Really, you're not going to go out and throw. I mean, you could, depending on the reel you have that can handle it, and if you've been doing it for a long time, you're just used to bait casters. You could go out and throw an 1/8 to 1/4 ounce bait on these, if you know what you're doing with the right line. But it's just not practical. 9 times out of 10, just use a spinning rod for that type of weight.
Yep. Anything super light, spinning rod. You cannot go wrong. And it goes well above and beyond. We actually did a separate stream, and I think it was the 3rd stream in this whole series. So if you go to the channel and you go to the playlist, there's one we did with John, the owner of Wicked Custom Rods, where we really dove deep into like different rods, like length, power, and action,
everything
for different applications. So that's the deep dive into that we're not going to do here because we already did it before and we don't have enough time for that. But like specifically breaking it down in a like beginner's basic understanding, more often than not, yeah, heavier duty stuff, 3/8 ounce and up, casting. It's gonna be your best friend. Anything less than that, especially super light stuff, weightless stuff, more often than not, you want to go with the spinning reel. Because it just it removes all of the user error out of it, right? You could bomb a weightless T-rigged 4-inch Senko into the wind with a spinning reel, not gonna have any problems. You could do the same thing with even a 3/8 ounce weight on a 7-inch Senko on a casting reel. You're gonna have problems if you're casting into the wind.
Still have problems as long as, yeah. If you're just getting into using bait casters, don't throw into the wind.
Oh God,
you're never gonna want to pick up a bait caster again.
No,
Go with the wind if you're gonna do anything.
Casting with the wind. Sorry.
Time for bed.
Like, don't overthink it too much, man. If now when you're talking about line with both, that's another big thing, right? Like a lot of newer anglers don't want to put the money into throwing, say, braid to a fluorocarbon leader, and there's a lot of reasons behind that, and that's totally fine. I highly recommend it. I went through this whole thing for years. It is absolutely worth your time and money, even as a brand new angler, to learn how to tie a leader knot and go braid to a leader or just straight braid where you can get away with it. Because line memory on a spinning reel is the hardest thing a lot of people have trouble dealing with. Mono, dude, forget it. Like mono, it actually doesn't even matter. Mono and straight fluoro on a spinning reel, line memory is a nightmare.
Yeah.
And the heavier the line weight you get, the worse it gets. Yep. And yeah, dude, there'll be plenty of times you go to grab the reel and just
Yeah.
and it just blows up out of the reel on its own accord.
It's like, all right, well, that's the end of that reel for the day.
Yeah, but you don't have to worry about that with braid. It's just you don't have any line memory. So that is something I really suggest is worth your time. I know it's a little bit extra cost. Grand scheme of things is it's really only an extra 10 or 12 bucks. You can do Power Pro and it's fine, man. Like that stuff's cheap. You can find that anywhere. A light spool, the 200-yard stuff.
And it lasts
$10 at Walmart?
Forever.
Yeah, you get 2 or 3 years out of it. And then another $10 on like a decent spool of fluorocarbon. And that whole spool of fluorocarbon will last you the entire friggin' season. So between the two, like it's really only an extra 10 to 15 bucks out of your pocket to go, and it will save you so much headache. I promise you. Oh my God, it will save you so much headache. Cannot stress it enough. When it comes to bait casters, it's just a matter of finding something you want to be comfortable with. Like bait casters for me, if you're new and you're trying to get into this, moving baits. You can do it with a casting reel and your line is granted, like it's spinning, and I've heard that supposedly it impacts the action. I don't necessarily agree with that. I really don't think it makes that much of a difference, like night and day. Minimal impact? Probably.
Maybe a little bit, but
not
enough to make a difference.
No, but it certainly is much more comfortable throwing it on basically like a straight line setup with a casting setup versus a spinning setup. So it's, I don't know, man. I don't overthink it. Find out what works for you and just grow with your comfort level. Don't force anything. I'm going to do a separate video specifically on how to learn how to throw bait casters, because I have a technique that has worked for freaking everybody that I've ever had, like try and start throwing it. So, but that'll be its own like 60-second video versus throwing it in the middle at the end of now a 2.5-hour stream.
We'll make something funny. I'll just go there and I'll just backlash the shit out of it. And he'll be like, hey, try this.
Just have you cast into a wall without putting your thumb on it. I don't know what happened.
I don't know what happened.
How you do this?
I just look like ratness.
How you do the casting reel? Just talking like a really broken foreign accent. How you do?
How do you do it? I'm broken through that. I think it sucks.
All right, so now we need to back up a little bit to Ryan Outdoors. Love my 603 sticker on the old Dirty John boat. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Love that sticker. I saw somebody. Oh, I missed the question about the 360. I'm so sorry. If you're still here, please ask it again. Alex Kincaid, fishing mostly casting setups, but I just got a spinning setup. If you could only have one spinning setup, what would you throw? You first.
Drop shot.
So what is the length rod, the action, everything, line, the whole 9 yards?
I think right now I'm throwing a 7.2.
Yep.
7.2 medium.
I think it's a medium fast.
Medium. I think it's a medium fast too. 7.2 medium fast with 10 pound, no, 15 pound J braid to 8 pound leader for my drop shot setup.
It's one of the things we didn't really talk about. But again, we did a whole separate stream on like rod action and all that stuff. But just for a refresher, for those that are watching just this, I haven't gotten to it. When we were talking, so he just said 7.2 medium fast. So medium fast, medium heavy fast, medium moderate fast,
Medium extra fast.
medium light, right? Extra fast.
Medium.
Like, so The first part of that, medium, medium light, medium heavy, heavy, extra heavy, whatever. That's to here. From reel handle to this point. We'll call that your backbone. That is your power. That is how much oomph you get out of it, right? When people talk broomstick, that's because back here is fat like a broomstick, and it's got no flexibility until like way up here. When they're talking the other half of that, moderate fast, fast, extra fast, things like that, that's your tip action. So where this breaks, so this is, I know it's my ice rod, but it doesn't matter what type of rod it is.
That would be like an ultralight.
So you can kind of point to where that's breaking, and it's behind the third one. Yeah, right about there. So the lower, so like moderate to moderate fast to fast to extra fast. The faster you get when you're talking about that second half of rod action, the further up is where that flex point is in your rod. So like moderate is way back here, almost in the middle.
So your rod's really gonna bend a lot.
And that's typically better for lighter lures. And then moderate fast is more like up here. And then fast is more like up here. And then extra fast is like right at the very tip. Extra fast is something that's really good for like frogs, for example. You need backbone, right? Because you're throwing it way up shallow in the slop. So when you set the hook, you need to horse those fish out of some absolutely heavy, ugly crap. But you're throwing what, 3/8 ounce frog? You need some flex up here. Because if you're throwing a friggin' broomstick and there's no break in the action at the tip, you're gonna cast that thing straight down at your feet every friggin' time.
Yeah.
So you need to have some
just
flex up here.
Just to whip it out.
So that's just, as he was explaining his preferred drop shot setup, I want to be able to break that down again really quick and easy. What I hope was a very quick and easy way to explain it. So you said your ideal one was your drop shot, 7.2.
Medium fast.
Medium fast.
I like a medium fast. I like the fast because I could feel literally everything. Literally everything. I could feel when it goes from pebbles to sand to grass to rock. If I'm pulling up over a rock and there's another little pebble on the rock, I can feel that. If I do see myself going over that, like, it's insane what you can feel. And it also helps with certain lines and tungsten weights, and there's a whole lot of other stuff that goes along with it. But
I am in 100% agreement with him. Everything he said applied to me. I'm sorry, I just punched the hell out of Mike. If I had to pick the one setup, literally everything he said is perfect. That is my ideal spinning setup. Brendan, I want to go fish for smallies where you legit had to throw 5 pounds straight floor or else they see the line.
Man, we've been in pretty freaking gin clear water, and 8 pound works fine.
It does. There are times, and it's literally only like a couple of days out of the entire 365 days of the year of open water. Obviously, we don't have 365 days of open water here in New Hampshire.
Why would you want to go fish for fish that tough to catch?
Right.
Fuck that.
There are days where line diameter, it legitimately matters. But it's only like a quite literal handful of days
I think that time
out of the entire year.
That we were out at the islands.
Mm-hmm. It would have made a difference.
Out on Ontario.
Yep. Second time we went to the striper spot.
No. Oh, wait. Striper spot.
When we were at Dennis. And things were really tough for us.
Yeah.
The river.
Probably. I don't think that had anything to do with it.
I heard from a guy that like lives for that stuff, and he was like, "Tell me what happened." I told him, he was like, "If you're throwing 6 pound test, I know it sounds crazy for what you're fishing for, but if you threw a 6 pound test, you would have smacked him." Yeah, so, if this is your entire season, that much of it matters to have less than 8 pound test. If you want to do it, all the power to you. I honestly think it's totally unnecessary.
Yeah, it's a waste of time. Go somewhere else where you're actually going to catch fish.
Pretty much.
Because you're probably not going to catch anything.
Sir Altitude asks, but there is such a difference in bank fishing and boat kayak fishing. Most bank fishing is going to have way more snags. That's absolutely true there. Brian Outdoor, am I the only one where the handle is on the left side of spinning and on the right side of bait casters? Nope, absolutely not. A lot of people do that.
Honestly, it felt weird picking up my spin rod the other day.
Oh, I bet.
Because it's still on the same side as my baitcaster, but I picked it up. I'm like, what in the hell is going on here?
I don't know what I'm doing. Smackdown. Braid is cheaper in the long run. You don't have to replace it every year. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, we're way behind here on the chat. Talon, I just priced out a Daiwa DX 8-foot with Super Duty, and it would be just like under $300 for swim bait setup.
That's not bad at all.
That's wicked good.
It's actually really freaking good.
We got best Donk Swampy, best reel for learning to skip, whichever one you have absolute confidence in dialing in your spool speed and all that crap. How much are ours? I can't answer that. Expensive. The retail on our swim bait rods is going to be like $600. But so these are from Wicked Custom Rods. They're legitimately going to weigh less than pretty much any other swim bait rod on the market, and they're still going to be rated to 6 ounces, which is pretty damn good.
They weigh about
as much as that,
probably,
and that's not an exaggeration.
Actually, probably less.
The rod blank alone is only 2.1 ounces for an 8-foot rod. That's rated to 6 ounces. Think about that. 2.1 ounces for an 8-foot rod rated to 6 ounces, and it only weighs 2.1 ounces. Those things are going to be the real deal. It's going to be insane. We're going to be able to throw big baits all day and not feel tired.
About that.
I'm not gonna, dude. Those 2 rods I have aren't even that good, and I mean, you saw how far I was bombing it with that new Super Duty rod from Lewis. Never once felt like I was throwing weight. It was thing was amazing.
Yeah, you're right.
Ryan, do you use a barrel swivel to the leader? No, never, ever use a swivel unless you're throwing Carolina rig. Oh yeah, Henry, there was saying thank you. So you can talk about the 360 at the end of the show. Oh, Gordy, hope you're still here, buddy. Have a good night.
Hi, dude.
John Mango, do you use the Pro S Speed spool? What is that one we just
SLP?
Bottom box in that stack.
SLP, yeah.
Speed spool SLP. Yes. We literally just got one each. He got one and I got one.
Literally the best jig reel ever.
Dude, it's, you know what? I can grab it. My rod's right here, so I can show the reel itself.
And it's tiny, fits right in your hand. It is sexy looking. Woo, that carbon fiber. Oh, it's nice.
That's a new frog setup.
I'll use it for your frog. I use it for my jig.
But I can use it for anything. Like anything that I want to use straight braid, Texas rig, heavy duty stuff, punching, pitching. I mean, this rod is meant, it's Magnum heavy. I can throw frogs, or I can throw a 1 ounce weight and like flip and pitch into heavy stuff. It's an 8.3 to 1 ratio with, I think that's 50-pound J braid. That thing is so smooth, man. Get a little close. Show you the goods, baby.
Your hand.
A little focus still looks good.
Links on John's building the swim bait rods.
North
blank? Yeah.
North Fork Composite X-Ray. Awesome. Absolutely amazing. All right. Henry, what do you specifically want to know about the 360 before we call it quits here? Because it's already 10:30. And I have to be at work.
Early.
Very early. Well, I have to be up.
I don't.
I have to be awake in 5.5 hours.
Woof.
Yeah. Long days, man. That's what happens when you have a 46-mile drive.
True. I have a 1 mile drive.
I guess before we see what Henry wants to ask about the 360, I think the biggest thing I can say about the 360, pinpoint accuracy on what you're casting at.
Up to 300 feet. Up to 150 feet.
150, yep. Because it's a max. Actually, no, it's not even quite that high. I think it's 280 feet. So it's a 140-foot radius.
Oh.
Is the max. Is it even that high? Maybe it's only 120. No.
No,
I think it's 140. But it's crazy. Like, it's just... Oh, okay. So your input on 30-foot plus feet. Oh, dude. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah. You can... Oh, that way. 30 feet. There's a boulder. Oh, 4 pounds molly. Perfect.
Right. So, I mean, on the 360, you get your whole circle, right? There's a couple different ways you can set it up. But typically, you see the entire circle of what the transducer can see. And I'll be fishing something, and I'll see something show up. And if I see like multiple areas of interest, or depending on how the day goes, because I'm really good about like sharing spots, I'm not just casting to all the prime stuff I see. Like if I'm way ahead or he's way ahead or whatever, like if he's way ahead, then I'm like, okay, I see like the next 5 prime spots, and I'm gonna, you know, pick them apart really quick, see if I can catch up a little bit. If I'm way ahead, I don't even cast at him. I'm like, hey, 30 feet that way, and I'll put my rod down across my whole 9-inch helix, and I'll line it up and I'll point it like that way, 35 feet, and he just like eyeballs it and hits it almost every single time, and it's crazy. Now, I almost always have my range set to 80 feet. So radius from where I'm standing, I see everything within 40 feet of my body, which is pretty good coverage. You can see a ton of stuff and with good detail. Can it pick up rocks that deep?
Oh, 30 feet? Yeah, it picks up rocks in 80 feet.
Dude, when we were on the St. Lawrence River, we were fishing a hump that topped out at 65 feet.
Yeah. And
I maxed out the range on it to 140. Because you're going to lose a lot, right? The cone's going to come down until it hits bottom. And what it's reading, there's going to be a lot of dead space until it, you know, you've got your... So if you've got it set, we'll make it easy. If you got your range set to 100 feet, so that's 100 feet radius. I have mine set so there's 4 rings. So every ring is 25 feet. So if we're fishing in 50 feet of water, I'm not going to see anything for that first... Wait, did I say that right? Well, if we're fishing in 50 feet and I have it set to 100, then I only have a 50-foot radius. Right. We're not going to see anything. The graph's going to be black. So I had to set it to say like 140 feet. So I got 70 feet. So the last 20 feet of what my graph is seeing, I'm actually seeing the bottom. You know, so you kind of have to play that game. But you still see plenty of stuff. Even when you're fishing that deep. It works killer.
It's like 2D sonar, but just like it's over everything, so you see it all.
Yep.
You're gonna see it that deep. You're just gonna mess with it a little bit.
One of the things that I started really playing with last year that I haven't done a lot of yet this year because we just haven't had to yet. If anybody's watched like a lot of the Bassmaster tournaments, especially any of Brandon Polnick's videos specifically, he uses it differently. Almost to the effect of like live scope. So in the 360, the Mega 360, there's 6 speed settings. 1 obviously being the slowest, 6 being the fastest. And that's just how fast your transducer is spinning. It literally just spins in circles, a perfect 360 degrees. And that's how you get it. So you have a line from your center point, left and right. And both of those lines go. And at the leading edge of both of those, so on this one, as it's rotating clockwise, I know for you guys it's backwards, but as this hand is coming down, everything behind it is being refreshed. And the same deal with this one over here. Everything behind it is being refreshed. So, you know, it's not like just one line that you have to wait for it to come all the way around 360.
Like an old, like 1930 sonar.
Right. It's every 180 degrees you're getting a completely refreshed image. Polnick fishes his, and that's if you're doing the whole circle. Polnick fishes his only half. So I'm fishing mine, if we're using the tank here as the center of my screen, right? I see the whole circle what my conducer can do. Polnick fishes it like that. And he shortens his range to like 30 feet.
It's like bing, 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 bing.
And you can change it.
Literally see stuff moving around.
Right. So he maxes his speed out and sends it to basically windshield wiper mode. So it goes left, right, left, right, left, right. And actually I did that right for the reverse perspective for you guys. I said it backwards for myself. But so it is constant, just within 15 feet of the front of the boat. If you get your settings right, you can still see pretty good detail with it. And we practiced this on our honey hole home base last year. Remember, we were out on that shallow flat and I anchored down because it was dead calm and we knew they were fishing the flat because we were already catching them. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna set it like Polnick does. I biased it, so when I saw the front 180 degrees, I set it to wiper mode, and I maxed out the speed, and then I changed the settings a little bit for sensitivity and contrast, so I could see because I'm only in 5 feet of water. So how it translates what it's seeing differs a little bit than if you're in like 20 plus feet. But I could see white dots of fish. Moving, and then they go out. And the same deal. They move in, they move out a little bit, they move out that way. And I could track a bait ball as it came straight across my boat. Perfect line. And it's nuts. So like there's so many different things you can do with it. 95% of the time I have it set so I can see everything within 50 feet of where I'm standing on the front of the boat. and we're specifically targeting a structure. We've literally said this, I think, if this is our 20th stream, which it is, I think we said it in 16 streams last year, where we had to stop, and one of us looked at one of the other and we said, do you know how many big fish we owe to the 360 this year? Because we found structure we didn't know existed before, and like him, hey, buddy, drop my rod 40 feet that way, and just first freaking cast right on the damn thing and pulls up a fish.
Mm-hmm. And it's usually a big fish.
Because we're just finding stuff that nobody else really knows about. Because we only have 2D.
You never know that that's there.
Right. Or you gotta do a side imaging and hope you drop an accurate mark on it. But then, then you have to set another mark like 40 or 50 feet away from it and hope that the way you're reading your graph, like, okay, well, I know my boat's on my mark, and that mark, it's somewhere over there, like it's 360 takes all that guesswork out of it.
It's just you literally see where you are. You're 50 feet, 60 feet, 80 feet, 100 feet away from it. You know exactly where it is because you can see it literally right on your screen. You know what direction it is. You know how deep it is. Drop right on top of it. Catch fish on it.
Yep.
It just works.
I'm pissed because we fished a new lake last weekend and my graph wouldn't turn on. I think it's just a power issue. So I had to troubleshoot that this weekend. It's the first time it's giving me problems. I've had it over a year. As much as I want live target or active target or anything, I'm not willing to get anything up for my 360. I owe way more to my 360 than anything else.
We've won tournaments because of it.
Yep.
Literally.
Because, there's been a couple days. All right, I'm going to bring this up, and it's going to hurt my soul. Lake Ontario last year. Last day we were on the lake for a full day. And we were going to fish, so it was the last full day we had. We were supposed to check out the next morning. We were intending to do the same thing like we did last year. Fish in the morning, drive home in the afternoon. So it's like a 7-hour drive. And when you watch like tournament guys like on the elites or whatever, and they're like, man, I found this one like Volkswagen friggin' Beetle sized rock out off this crazy tapered point, and it's right on its breaking edge where it's already come down, but it's
Paul
right
Mueller?
at the cusp. And it's just this one beautiful rock. And there's always fish that come into it at some point in the day. We literally found that. And I'm not exaggerating. No bullshit, nothing. Like, we found that 2 days before.
Yeah.
And the last day, first spot we went was out that long point. And we were fishing like probably a half mile up from it. We came down to it, saw on the 360, spot lock. Waited for my boat to correct because of the wind. Cast that 5 or 6 times. And it was either this 5th or 6th cast. Loaded up on what I absolutely guarantee was the biggest smallmouth of my life. We saw a flash of it. 35 feet of water, one giant friggin' rock. 1.5 miles offshore?
Yeah. Probably, yeah.
You never would have...
1.5 miles, 2 miles. It was out there.
Because it's crazy when you talk about Lake Ontario. Like, the position of that rock at that breaking point on like any New Hampshire lake would probably only be like 100 feet, maybe offshore. Sure. But apply that to the scale of Lake Ontario, and it was literally like 1.5 miles to 2 miles from the nearest shoreline.
Yep.
But it was just this crazy, like 5 degree, not even, probably like a 2 degree tapering bank over miles. No joke, miles. It's not an exaggeration. And we just found this one little spot where that bank kind of cut in a little bit and came back out. So it created this little indent, and right on the breaking edge where it had a very sharp, steep drop off, there's one giant boulder. Like, that is literally the shit anybody dreams of.
I caught a big fish off it too. Well, I hooked into a big fish too.
Yep.
Off it.
And
Not as big as yours, but...
Would I fight that for 30, 45 seconds? We got it up. We saw a shadow of it. It was a smallmouth. I bet my fucking life on it. It was a smallmouth, man. And she just turned and shrugged her shoulders.
Straight down.
That's all you could hear is drag.
35,
locked me in the rock.
Feet-ish, something like
35 feet.
And it came right up to the boat. He got up to the boat and it went straight back down. There was nothing. He was just sitting there looking at me. He was like,
"There's nothing to do."
I don't know what to do.
Because at that point all week, we had been losing a lot of fish because they're like, for whatever reason. So I told him, I remember saying it, like, I got her up and I tried leaning into her and I was like, nope, I'm not even screwing around. I went click, click, and I backed off my drag, basically like one full half turn.
Fight this fish for 5 minutes. I don't care.
Yep. And I knew I had her buttoned, and I just gave her a little too much. and she 35 feet down, man, pulled me right into that rock, and that was it.
Broke you off.
And that was the beginning, the very first fish of my day. That was one of the worst days of fishing I've ever had in my life.
And then I lost my freaking giant at the end of the day.
Yeah, that was actually, that was one of the worst days of fishing we both had. But so anyway, long story short, I never would have even found that rock if not for my 360. More importantly, never would have even been able to cast at it if it wasn't for my 360.
Yeah, we never known it was there.
Over a mile, almost 2 miles offshore, and 35 feet of water, one rock. It's not like there was a pile of them. It was literally one rock. And there was a giant on it.
We were also reading the bath maps.
Yeah.
And kind of like seeing where like we have been finding fish for the few days before, week before, whatever. So we worked that same type of area, but we were just 2 miles out. I mean, we had worked that area, once or twice before that week?
Yeah. You know what's funny? You came over. We did, I think, like a 2-hour recap that I was able to eventually cut down to like an hour and 15 minutes that whole week, and I never uploaded it. I just didn't have time. I got to a point, at that point, it was like a month after I friggin' uploaded the last video for the St. Lawrence. I'm like, it's too late. That wouldn't be a bad video to do, or like a bad stream.
Let's just do it.
We should do it sometime.
What, just recap, watch the video, and just talk about it?
We could do that, or just
director's
recap, like, I
commentary?
mean, now we spent 16 full days of fishing Lake Ontario and the St. Lawrence River. And it's not that far for the Northeast. Like, that could be a good video, like a good stream in and of itself, where like we could just recap that whole experience for people. Like, I mean, everybody in New England knows that small fishing up here is crazy. And then you go to Champlain, which is on the outskirts of New England, and it's a whole different world. And then from Champlain to like the St. Lawrence River, Lake Ontario, it's really not that far.
It's not.
You can't do it in a day. A 2-day weekend is
wanted.
asking a lot. 2 nights? Oh yeah, absolutely worth it.
Physically, I don't even know if it's possible to get there.
Fish for a day and come home?
No. Drive all the way home. You're still going to be into the next day.
Not unless you have an iron bladder and bowels that you could literally just like make one bathroom stop before you even left
And
town.
you can drive 120, 130 the entire way there without stopping.
It would be, I think it's 5.5 hours nonstop. That's a tall task from New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Doable. Anyway, people are dropping off like flies here. Sorry, guys. 10:47. Dude, it was a good stream though. Like, I'm glad we covered everything. We were able to kind of elaborate and expand like beyond everything else we were talking about. And then we got a little off track at the end. So I'm really hoping that what we covered for you New Anglers was expansive enough, right? For everything that you asked for questions, what we tried to cover, for like the bare basics, for tools you need, gear, like what makes sense for line, the difference in line, what's better and what's worse, like pros and cons of the 3 majors, right? Braid, mono, fluoro. Different hooks for different situations, different techniques that like are absolute go-tos, no-brainers. There's like another half dozen baits here we didn't even get to talk about that I think are easy for beginners. So I think we did pretty good though. We covered a lot.
Yeah.
And easily the longest stream we've ever done.
Almost 3 hours.
Long night. But it was good. It's not like it was all fluff and we were struggling. Chat was going off. Thank you all very much for that.
Yep.
You guys were keeping it interesting. And we had a lot of good questions we answered. But I think now's a good time to call quits. So normally I would be like,
People
hey,
are still coming on.
I know, right? Normally I'd be like, hey, all right, anybody else got any questions? Let's roll. But yeah, no, you all had your chance.
Nah, it's almost 11. We both got to get up in the morning and go to work. I'm sure all you do too.
Yep. All right. So thank you all greatly for watching. Thank you again, Lisa, the only donator of the night. Thank you very much. That's hugely helpful.
Yeah.
Now,
you, Lisa.
every penny we get goes towards that camera that we're going to use to stream. So anybody that's feeling generous, keep it rolling. Everything's going into a digital camera. That'll be the next thing. It's going to be sweet because we can use it for the stream and the boat. But more importantly, we got him a PC so he can start editing videos and we can start keeping up with consistent uploads for the channel, which would be huge. So thank you all for watching. Greatly appreciate it. John Mango, Henry Q, Chris Peckham, Donk Swampy, Ferris, anybody else that's here, greatly appreciate it.
Donk
Buddy,
Swampy.
signing off. I'm going to shut her down.
All right, guys. Next week should be on. We will be on. We will see you next week. Same time, same place.